In a world ruled by gods and monsters, where the line between hero and demon is written in blood, Dot One stands at the precipice of destiny, ready to challenge the very heavens. At the end of all things, he makes a vow, a promise sealed in the fires of hell itself. But this legend did not begin with a crown or a holy sword. It began with a collar and the title of slave. He was nothing, less than nothing, fodder for the beasts that roamed the land. His only value was how long he could scream before the darkness took him. He was thrown into a world of cutthroat politics, where powerful merchant unions pull the strings of fate, where men of influence gamble with lives as if they were coins. Shadowy figures lurk in every corner, offering power at an unspeakable price. Trust is a currency more valuable than gold, and betrayal is the one debt that is always repaid. In this world, even your allies can become the knife at your throat. To survive, he had to become a monster himself, clawing his way up from the bottom, one bloody victory at a time. He would face nightmares that could break the minds of seasoned knights and answer their fury with his own. But his climb was not without sacrifice. He would learn that power is a lonely throne, built upon the graves of those you fail to protect. And when the ones who took everything from him were finally within his grasp, a new purpose was born from the ashes of his despair: vengeance. The slave died in the dirt. What rose in his place was something else entirely. A master strategist, playing a game no one else could see, harnessing forbidden power that could rewrite the laws of the world. When you have nothing left to lose, how far will you go to reclaim your life? And what will you become in the end?
Our story kicks off in the sprawling, vibrant harbor city of Lith, a central hub for seafaring adventurers. The salty air is filled with the cries of gulls as ships sail in and out, carrying dreams and ambitions. On one such ship, a group of hopefuls eagerly awaits their arrival, ready to start their new lives. One young man in particular can barely contain his excitement, a huge grin spreading across his face. "Finally!" he shouts, overjoyed to have reached the city of opportunity after a long journey. As they disembark, the port is bustling with activity, a true melting pot of races and classes. The city is all whirlwind of sights and sounds, a place where countless paths and stories intersect. His friend, a tall, confident man named Walker, playfully grabs him, amused by his wide-eyed wonder. Walker reminds the young man Raymond to stick close, as they've got places to be and an adventure to start. Their other companions, Jaren and a quiet hooded woman, watch the two with knowing smiles. Even the boisterous Jaren seems impressed by the grandeur of their destination. They make their way towards a grand building, the very place where their grand adventure is set to begin. This is the great era of adventures, a time of heroes and legends. It's an age where people from all walks of life can forget their own path and become heroes in their own right. This era was sparked by the sudden appearance of mysterious portals known simply as gates. Beyond these gates lie dimensions filled with horrifying monsters never before seen in their world. While many perished, the unimaginable riches and powerful items within lured countless others, all daring to dream big. Back in the present, Walker gathers his party, his cheerful demeanor replaced with a serious tone. Raymond and the others listen intently, sensing the sudden shift in the atmosphere. He explains their original plan has gone south due to some unexpected variables. The hooded woman coldly suggests they'll need a distraction, a bait to draw attention while the rest escape. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a dark grimacell where two men are being held captive. It turns out Walker and his party aid a slave market, looking to buy people to use as bait for their dungeon crawl. The slaver grins, assuring them the slaves are cheap, but Walker's expression remains cold and calculating. Without a second thought, Walker points to the two captives and declares, "All right, I'll take both." Soon after, the entire party, now with their two new recruits, stands before the ominous entrance of a red gate. Walker peers inside, noting that the dungeon seems empty, which means they'll be the first ones in. He draws his weapon, a sinister smile creeping onto his face as he prepares to enter. It's clear that for Walker, the lives of others are just pawns in his quest for power and glory. With manic grins, Walker's party charges forward, their excitement bordering on insanity as they prepare to enter the gate. A swirling red portal sucks them in, and Raymond is immediately hit with a bizarre, unsettling sensation. They're transported to another worldly forest filled with colossal, glowing mushrooms, a sight that leaves him speechless. This mysterious, luminescent landscape is far from the typical dangerous dungeon they had all imagined. Walker's main party members look wunge, telling the hired porters not to get nervous as they move forward. As they venture deeper into the alien woods, the atmosphere grows heavy with an unspoken threat. Suddenly, one of the porters freezes, her eyes widening in sheer terror of something lurking in the foliage. Before she can even scream, a horrifying plant-like monster lunges from the shadows, its massive jaws ready to devour. The rest of the party turns in shock, screaming in panic as they realize an ambush has already begun. One man's dread intensifies as he spots countless pairs of glowing red eyes emerging from the darkness around them. It's not just a monster, it's an entire horde, and the party has walked right into the heart of their nest. The porters, armed with only basic weapons, grip their staffs tightly, preparing for a desperate fight for their lives. However, one of the main party mages begins to chant, unleashing a powerful fire arrow spell. The Fury projectile pierces through a creature, but the attack barely seems to slow down the swarm. Then, the mage reveals their true, horrifying plan, screaming at fighters to tie the porters to the trees. Walker's thugs waste no time, pressing knives against the porters' throats and forcing them into position. Raymond's face drains of color as the horrifying truth sinks in. They were never meant to be backup, only live bait. With the sacrifices in place, Walker's party makes a break for it, leaving the terrified porters to their gruesome fate. The monsters immediately descend upon the helpless bait, and one man is instantly turned to shreds in a spray of blood. Another porter can only watch in terror as a massive claw descends upon him from behind, sealing his doom. The brutal scene unfolds as the main party flees, callously abandoning the porters to be mercilessly slaughtered. But the horde is relentless, and even Walker's group suffers casualties, forcing them to carry their wounded as they run. Raymond is frozen solid with fear, until one of the party members grabs him, shouting for him to snap out of it. The man violently shakes Raymond, desperately trying to break him from his trauma-induced stupor. He screams at Raymond to remember what Walker taught them and to focus on their own survival above all else. His eyes are wide with a terrifying, fanatical devotion, completely brainwashed by their ruthless leader. He grins with absolute certainty, declaring they'll all escape, completely oblivious to the beast looming right behind him. But his faith is brutally misplaced, as the creature bites down, crushing him while his teammates can only watch in horror. The monster stands triumphant over its gruesome meal, its moss-like fur stained with fresh blood. The beast seems completely unfazed after devouring a trained hunter. Paralyzed by sheer terror, the last conscious hunter collapses to the ground. The creature's massive shadow looms over him, its hand reaching out to claim another victim. But suddenly, a new warrior wielding a blazing spear charges in. He fearlessly confronts the behemoth, aiming to put an end to its rampage. The monster retaliates instantly, its grotesque tongue lashing out like a fleshy whip. It moves with a speed that defies its massive size. Despite his heroic entrance, the spearman is caught in an instant. The creature's tongue wraps around his neck, choking the life out of him. He's yanked off his feet and pulled helplessly towards the creature's gaping maw. In a horrifying instant, another hero is about to be erased. The sickening crunch echoes through the forest as the sole survivor watches in abject horror. He's just witnessed two of his comrades die in the worst way imaginable. His body gives out, collapsing to the dirt as a weak whimper escapes his lips. All hope is gone, and he knows he's next. Having finished its second meal, the four-eyed beast turns its bloody grin towards the last man standing. The hunt is almost over. Before he can even react, he's yanked backward and dragged violently across the forest floor. The monster is toying with its food. He slammed hard against a tree, the brutal impact knocking the wind out of him. The monster is clearly enjoying his suffering. A raw scream of agony rips from his throat as the immense pain becomes unbearable. This is a nightmare heck can wake from. He looks down to see his leg is pinned against the tree trunk, caught firmly in the monster's grasp. There is no escape. But even facing certain death, a flicker of defiance sparks in his eyes. He refuses to go down without a final struggle. That's when he spots them, a lone figure standing calmly above the chaos. Someone has been watching this entire time. The injured hunter recognizes the face and calls out his name in disbelief. Dan. But the newcomer Sexprius is chillingly neutral. With what little strength he has left, he reaches out a bloodied hand, begging his teammate for salvation. He's his only hope. Hope glimmers in his desperate eyes as he pleads for his life. Surely Akamraid wouldn't just stand by and watch him die. His trembling hand continues to reach out, a symbol of his last-ditch effort to survive. He's putting all his faith in Dan. Through gritted teeth, his pleas continue, echoing a desperate prayer for help. He's at the absolute end of his rope. But Dan just watches from his perch, completely detached from the life-or-death struggle below. He makes no move to intervene. The horrifying realization finally dawns on him. Help isn't coming. His plea for help turns into a scream of pure rage at that betrayal. Dan coldly looks away, a barely perceptible smirk playing on his lips. It seems this was his intention all along. He finally makes his move, leaping gracefully from the tree branch. But he's not moving towards the monster. Helen softly and picks up a weapon from the ground. It's the fiery spear belonging to the warrior who was just devoured. Holding the spear, a single thought crosses his mind. I'm too late. A convenient excuse for a man who never planned to help. And with that, the monster's jaws snap shut on the last hunter. His betrayal is sealed as his life is brutally extinguished. His finaments are spent in agony, his life ending not just by the monster's teeth, but by the cold inaction of his own teammate. As his consciousness fades, the world blurs into a vortex of red, his final moments filled with the agony of betrayal. But through the pain, a single thought cuts through the haze, a final curse for the teammate who left him to die. He vows that if he's going down, he won't be going alone. There will be no escape for the coward. With his last breath, he reaches out, not for help, but to mark his target for a fate worse than death. And just like that, the monster's jaws clamp down, extinguishing his life in a brutal crunch of bone and flesh. The massive golem now turns its attention to the sole survivor. The very man who coldly orchestrated his teammate's demise. Without a second thought, the beast grinds what's left of its meal into tether, ready for its next course. The protagonist stands his ground as the golem lunges, its massive jaw unhinging to devour him in one bite. Yet there is no fear in his eyes, only a chillingly calm resolve as he stares down his impending doom. He tightens his grip on his spear with a single, unyielding thought. I wouldn't die. The golem switches tactics, unleashing a powerful energy blast from its central eye, a torrent of pure destruction. But with uncanny agility, hedges the beam, twisting through the air as the attack carves a trench in the ground behind him. He lands hard, taking a moment to catch his breath as Thetis settles from the near-fatal blow. Brushing his hair back, he reveals a confident smirk. To him, this deadly dance was barely a challenge. But that small victory was nothing compared to the true war that raged across land, a conflict threatening to shatter the very world. On a desolate cliff, the last remnants of humanity's forces stand witness to the apocalypse unfolding before them. The skies above crawl with legions of monstrous wyverns, acting as scouts for a far greater evil. Hulking gargoyles followed in their wake, their feral roars echoing across the barren plains. But even these powerful beasts were merely insects compared to the colossal shadow looming over Thabatfield. It was Gornthale, the undead king of dragons, an ancient being offer unadulterated destruction. The silver-haired commander watches in horror, realizing their last line of defense, the centaur's nest, has fallen. With their forces decimated, she knows there is nothing and no one left for them to depend on. She recounts their losses. The Cygnus Knights, the Resistance, every faction has been completely wiped out. Her voice trembles as she delivers the horrifying truth. Every single one of their allies is dead. All except for one. In Thishoplus War, there is only one person still standing against the tide. Humanity's final hope now rests entirely on the shoulders of the last adventurer. He turns, his eyes not filled with despair, but with the cold, unbreakable resolve of a man with nothing left to lose. The memory of their final, desperate charge against the Dragon King begins to play out. He and his comrades had leaped into the abyss, a final, defiant roar against the encroaching darkness. But their enemy met them with a cataclysmic power that shook their very souls. The world burned around them as the final battle raged, a true vision of hell made real on Earth. Through the blood and flames, our hero emerges battered and bruised, but far from broken. He is the sole survivor on a battlefield littered with the bodies of his fallen friends. Ignoring his grievous wounds, he stares into the jaws of death itself, preparing for one final attack. For a fleeting moment, he allows himself to wonder if this is truly the end for him. But with a breathtaking surge of power, he lands a decisive blow, severing the dragon's colossal head. His moment of triumph turns to ash as the beast's neck begins to writhe and gruesomely regenerate. In seconds, the head is fully restored, roaring with a renewed fury that spells utter doom for the hero. Staring at the impossible reality of an immortal foe, a dark resolve settles in his eyes. He closes them, accepting his fate and preparing for the inevitable end. His body finally gives out and he collapses to his knees, utterly and completely defeated. But even as he spits his life's blood, his defiant spirit refuses to break. Whispering one last challenge, Asif, his defiance triggers a memory. A vision of how everything fell apart, flashing before his eyes. He remembers his comrades falling one by one, starting with Jaden, who was mercilessly struck down. He could do nothing but hold his friend in his final moments, a scene of pure, helpless despair. Then Alexis, blinded by rage and grief, charged headfirst into the jaws of the beast to avenge them. She met her end with a tearful smile, a final, heartbreaking ode. Wounded and alone, he became the last man standing amidst the carnage. He stumbles through the desolate wasteland, the weight of his failure crushing him with every step. The name of his nemesis escapes his lips, a vow often genes fueled by unimaginable hatred. Gornthale! But the dragon of apocalypse circles overhead, mocking his survival and leaving him no hope of escape. Refusing to surrender, he summons the last of his strength, channeling it into one final, desperate attack. A brilliant beam of golden light erupts from his palm, his last gambit to defy an inescapable fate. He pours every last ounce of his will into the blast, screaming his defiance at the heavens. But Thepawar is too much. His own attack begins to overwhelm and consume him. Through the blinding light, he looks on in horror as Gornthale prepares to counter, utterly unfazed by his ultimate move. A crushing force intercepts him before Heck can finish, and a pained cry rips from his throat. He's slammed into the ground, his lifeblood splattering across the barren earth in defeat. Gornthal unleashes its own devastating beam of destructive energy, intent on erasing him from existence. But just as his world fades to black, a harsh voice screams at him, followed by the shock of cold water. He jolts awake, not on a battlefield, but in a grimy cell, his hands bound in heavy wooden stocks. A brutish man mocks him, but all he can think about is his battle. What about Gornthale? He asks, confused. His mind races as a chilling realization begins to dawn on him. This can be right. He's not alone. Others are here, all bound like him, buying discus like cattle for the dungeons. He stares at his own shackled hands, Thero Wood, confirming his horrifying new reality. Looking out, he sees it clearly now. He's been thrown into the infamous slave market. His mind reels, utterly refusing to accept the impossible. How could he possibly be here? Everything feels wrong, but the cold stone walls and the despair in the air are undeniably real. Then his eyes lock onto the slave merchant, and a forgotten memory clicks into place. He knows that man. The horrifying truth dawns on him. This is the very same merchant who handled him 6 years ago, back when he was a slave. A powerful realization hits him like a bolt of lightning. If this merchant is here, then it can only mean one thing. He's back in the past. Before he can process it, the merchant notices his intense stare and immediately throws a vicious punch. The impact sends him reeling. The familiar pain, a stark reminder that this is his grim reality. He clutches his throbbing jaw, wondering if this is all just a nightmare. But the pain feels far too real. Just then, Theslav Merchant leads in a new group of customers, boasting about his fresh stock of disposable bait. He cheerfully pitches the slaves to a fancy-looking adventure, highlighting how they're in good shape for a dungeon run. But as Arero watches this scene from his past unfold, a fire ignites within him. This is in hell. This is his second chance. His mind flashes back to his previous life, remembering the long and arduous journey he took to become an adventurer. He recalls his meager beginnings, where a simple magic staff was the best piece of equipment he could afford. Even with his grit and determination, he had to scrape and claw his way up from the very bottom. But he knew that just trying hard was never going to be enough to truly reach the top. To survive, he then resorted to looting the corpses of fallen adventurers, a grim but necessary task. He remembers coming across a mangled body, a common sight in the treacherous dungeons he explored. Ignoring the gore, his eyes scanned their mains, searching for any valuables left behind. And that's when he spotted it, a small, unassuming ring on the corpse's severed hand. The moment he slipped eaten, a blue light enveloped his hand. He instantly recognized it, the legendary telekinesis ring. This single item was the turning point in his original life, the very source of the power he would come to wield. His memory continues, recalling the desperate battle that immediately followed his discovery. Thiessen of blood had drawn in a horde of monsters, forcing him to test his newfound power right away. An entire pack of ravenous, sharp-toothed beasts swarmed him from the darkness, leaving no room for escape. But with the power of telekinesis, he moved with inhuman speed, weaving through their deadly attacks. One of the creatures lunges forward, its grotesque tongue shooting out like a fleshy spear. He braces himself, catching the powerful strike with his staff, the raw impact rattling his bones. With a grunt, he holds the line against the beast's immense strength, preparing his counterattack. But just as he braced himself, his eyes widen in terror at a new threat lunging from the side. It's another beast, its cavernous mouth filled with razor-sharp teeth ready to devour him whole. In a flash, a vortex of fire erupts from his position, signaling a massive counterattack. He spins through the air, his weapon now a blazing scythe that carves a path through the monster horde. A glowing ring on his finger channels immense power into his staff, unleashing a deadly bolt of pure flame. The fiery projectile pierces through 3 beasts in a single shot, turning them to ash instantly. He relentlessly fires off another blast, mowing down the seemingly endless wave of monsters. Looking over the burning battlefield, he knows he can't sustain this power for much longer. And the monsters know it too as they press their advantage, snarling with bloodlust. But with a grim look, He casts his doubts aside, ready to fight until his last breath. He raises his stiff to cast another fire spell, but to his horror, nothing happens. He quickly inspects his weapon, wondering if it's on cooldown just as the enemy closes in. A monster lunges at the now powerless hero, forcing him to leap back desperately. Realizing his magic is gone, he has no choice but to rely on pure, brutal strength. He swings the staff with all his might, smashing it squarely into the beast's jaw with a sickening crunch. Following through, he delivers a powerful kick to the monster's ribs, sending it stumbling back. He masterfully uses the stunned creature as a stepping stone, launching himself into the air to gain distance. His eyes dart around anxiously as he buys time, wondering just how much longer he has to wait. Suddenly, the gem on his staff reignites with blazing fire. The cooldown is finally over. He turns his attention to the massive alpha beast, ready to end this fight once and for all. A look of cold, calculating fury crosses his face as he prepares to unleash everything he has left. He thrusts the staff forward, unleashing another spectacular wave of destruction upon the horde. But he's not finished yet. Calling on his ring for own last burst of power, he prepares a final gambit. A new, even more powerful beam erupts from his staff, tearing through the remaining monsters with unstoppable force. With the last of his energy spent, he stands firm, his weapon still glowing with residual heat. Silence falls upon the forest, the ground now littered with the smoking corpses of his enemies. He coughs up blood, the immense strain of the battle finally taking its toll on his battered body. The hooded woman stares up from the ground, realizing her opponent is far from ordinary. "You're no ordinary slave," she gasps, her voice laced with disbelief. Her mind races, replaying the battle. She had superior training, skills, and magic, yet this boy somehow overpowered her entire squad. Beaten and bloodied, she demands to know his identity, while he coldly thinks to himself that she was simply lucky to have survived this long. Desperation and fear fill her eyes as struggles to comprehend the sheer power this supposed slave possesses. He grips his staff, the glowing shackle on his wrist a stark reminder of his status, yet it doesn't diminish his imposing presence. The grim reality of her complete and utter defeat finally crashes down on her. Lying amidst the carnage of her fallen comrades, she questions if this was all for nothing, her mission ending in utter failure. But our hero simply stands over her, a silent victor against the moonlit forest backdrop. His expression is grim, the adrenaline fading to reveal the cold reality of what he's just done. He walks over to her, his voice devoid of emotion as he asks if she's finally done talking. Showing no pity, he makes it clear that her assumptions about him being a simple pawn were gravely mistaken. He clarifies that whether she used him as bait or not, the outcome was always the same. He would have killed them all anyway. Her face contorts in rage and terror as she realizes his true, merciless intentions. He raises his hand, and flames begin to dance around his fingers, ready to deliver the final blow. The gem on his staff glows with intense heat, channeling immense fire magic to finish the job. His motive is simple and brutal. He despises people who use slaves as bait and will show them no mercy. The scene shifts to a bustling city, where the citizens are suddenly in an uproar over a shocking sight. Onlookers point in disbelief, murmuring amongst themselves about something that should be impossible. A lone figure walks with purpose through crowded streets, drawing every single eye. It's our hero! Against all odds, the slave sent out as monster bait has returned alive and on his own 2 feet. There's a fire in his eyes, a look of unyielding determination that chills civilian who sees it. He ignores the stares and whispers, his gaze fixed on a single, massive building looming ahead. He arrives at his destination, the very headquarters of the organization that enslaved him. With his staff in hand, Ondus' resolve hardened. He knows what he must do first. He needs to be free. Our hero and the young witch arrive at a grand building, but word of his impossible return has preceded them. Inside an opulent office, a subordinate reports the details of a recent dungeon incident to an executive named Mr. Abbis. The report confirms that the noble who hired a slave as bait has perished inside the dungeon. Abbis pauses, intrigued by the news that the disposable Slav was the sole survivor of the expedition. He finds it deeply suspicious, noting that any other slave in that position would have fled at the first chance that he got. For debt slaves used as bait, survival is just a temporary reprieve for their thrown back into the jaws of death. Abbis knows the brutal truth of their system. For those trapped in its chains, the only escape is through death. A dark smirk plays on his lips as he contemplates the union's cruel, beauty-effective methods. This is simply the way of the Gaffer Merchant Union, a system built on the backs of the desperate. His aide questions the focus on such a trivial matter, but then reveals there's another more shocking piece of information. Abbis's hardened expression shatters, demanding to know what could more important. The aide drops a bombshell. The slave who was used as bait is now a one-circle mage. The executive's mind races, realizing that an empowered slave with a grudge is a massive threat to their organization. He senses that a fundamental change is coming, one that could upend the union's carefully balanced power. A bead of sweat trickles down his face as the full, terrifying gravity of the situation sinks in. Seeing his boss's panic, the subordinatismly remarks that an executive shouldn't be rattled by a lowly slave. Furious at the insubordination, Abbis slams his desk. His authority openly challenged. The aide internally scoffs, wondering why a powerful man is showing such obsessive interest in this one individual. The pressure mounts on Abbis, who is clearly shaken by this unexpected and dangerous turn of events. His subordinate continues to press, suggesting that Abbis is afraid this new mage could threaten his own position. After the disrespectful aide departs, Abbis is left alone with his simmering rage and dark thoughts. He stares out the window, muttering contemplatively about a mere piece of bait who dares to dream of becoming an adventurer. He reflects on the union's core belief. Humans have always been, and will always be, slaves to money. Their entire system is built on this principle, preying on the desperation of others for profit. Those who fall into debt must pay it back with their bodies, trapped in a cycle of indentured servitude. This was the very fate that ensnared our protagonist after his family was ruined by his father's illness. But with the power he has now obtained from the dungeon, he finally holds the means to shatter his chains. This was his past, a time when was nothing more than a slave, judged and condemned by those in power. He remembers the hopelessness, the despair that once defined his very existence in the old days. With the sharp crack of a gavel, his fate was sealed, a verdict delivered without mercy or a second thought. But that sound now echoes as a Calto action, fueling the fire of vengeance that burns brightly within him. That past is done. Now, sitting before one of his former tormentors, it's finale time for his revenge to begin. He calmly addresses the guild master, El Palm, getting straight to business about a man named Abbis. Palm sips his tea, feigning nonchalance as if he's already heard all this before from some other desperate adventurer. He sets his cup down, his one good eye sizing up the young man he once saw as nothing more than disposable bait. Our hero offers a simple thank you, a smirk playing on his lips as he correctly reads Palm's cautious nature. But Palm isn't a fool. He survived this long by being wary, and something about this former slave feels different. The MC, however, has no intention of playing along with this charade and decides to cut right to the chase. Palm acknowledges his impressive survival record, but dismisses him as just another lunatic trying to pay off a debt. He contemptuously puts out Hisager, treating the MC with the same disrespect as he always has. The guildmaster tries to intimidate him, expecting the boy to cower, but is met with a piercing, silent gaze. He remains perfectly still, his expression unreadable, letting the man's empty words hang in the air. Then he finally speaks, bringing up a supposedly impossible-to-clear rank 5 dungeon known as the Forest of Giants. The very mention of it makes Palm erupt in laughter, finding the boy Sada City completely ridiculous. He mocks the idea, reminding him that the Bonesoft 12 elite parties are already buried in that very dungeon. Unfazed, the Make issues a challenge. Prove his information is worthless, and he'll become Palm's loyal dog. Intrigued by the wager, Palm agrees to the terms, signing a contract that will bind them to this risky venture. And just like that, the scene shifts to the entrance of the dreaded Forest of Giants. Here, he meets the party assembled by Palm, a group of mercenaries who look anything but friendly. Theppardy leader Elad greets him with a smug grin, making it clear he's only here because of the guildmaster's orders. His companions share his sentiment, their mocking expressions showing they see our hero as just another liability. Elad immediately begins to question his abilities, asking what kind of elemental magic he even plans to use. He scoffs at the idea of a mage being useful here, especially one who looks so inexperienced and weak. His condescending tone reveals he believes he already knows everything there is to know about this dungeon. Elad smugly declares their true goal, to retrieve the items left behind by the 12 dead parties, not to actually clear the dungeon. Elad explains that the items from the 12 dead parties are worth a fortune, more than enough to justify the immense risk. One of the mercenaries grumbles about the potential earnings, but his partner quickly shuts him down. With their greedy objectives set, the party ventures deeper into the dungeon, their leader rallying them to make some money. They arrive in an ethereal forest, but its beautiful glow is deceptive. Elad warns them to stay alert for a long battle ahead. The massive interconnected trees provide the perfect terrain for them to navigate and set up a base. Wasting no time, they prepare a system of ropes and bolts for their ascent into the canopy. The cheerful rogue, Zook, takes charge of establishing their base camp, slinging an arm around the quiet Palm. Soon, a sturdy platform is constructed high in the trees, a safe vantage point from which they'll split into 2 search parties. The first search party consists of Zook, the stoic knight, and a confident-looking female mage. That leaves the leader, Elad, partnered with Palm, the quiet bait slave for the second team. As the 2 groups part ways, Elad and Palm head off into the eerie woods alone. Elad tries to make small talk, attempting to break the heavy silence between them. But Palm remains completely stone-faced, his expression cold and distant. Elad just laws off the cold shoulder, seemingly unfazed by Palm's lack of response. He begins to monologue, saying he always surrounds himself with good people to calm his nerves on dangerous jobs. As they walk through the unsettlingly beautiful landscape, Elad's flattery continues. He turns to Palm, mentioning that he's sure about his difficult past as a baiting slave. Feigning sympathy, Elad makes his move and offers Palm a permanent spot on their team. But the recruitment pitch is cut short as Palm suddenly stops, his attention fixed on something gruesome on the ground. It's the grotesque, half-dissolved remains of a Fallen adventure. They found their first score. Later that night around the campfire, the team discusses their findings, noting that Palm won't get a cut of the loot. Elad casually puts Palm on the spot, asking if he thinks they'll find what they're truly after tomorrow. Palm ignores the question, taking a long drink from his flask. His silence is his only answer. As night falls, Theory Forest grows quiet under the light of the moon. High in the trees, Theppardy settles into their makeshift base camp for the night. But not everyone is resting. A figure approaches Palm's sleeping bag, their hand ominously engulfed in flames. It's a lad, asking if he's asleep. His friendly demeanor is gone, replaced by a cold, murderous stare. Elad isn't alone. His entire party quietly journs the sleeping boy, a single torch casting sinister shadows on their faces. Meanwhile, our hero remains completely oblivious, lost in a deep, unnatural slumber as footsteps close in. Just as Elad seems to hesitate, an Theppardy member grabs his shoulder, questioning the holdup. With a wicked grin, the man reveals their true colors, sneering that the boy is too deep in his dreams to answer. The horrifying truth is revealed. They drugged him with appetent sleeping herb, all to steal his valuable fire arrow wand. With their greed laid bare, the rogue brandishes a wicked-looking dagger, its polished face gleaming with murderous intent. His face twists into a mask of pure avarice, ready to commit a heinous act for a simple piece of gear. With ackling finality, he raises the blade high, ready to plunge it into the defenseless boy and get to work. But the story cuts away, showing our protagonist left for dead on a cliffside. The greedy adventurers who betrayed him gloat over his body, eager to steal his valuable fire arrow staff. Suddenly, we're pulled into a grim memory, a coldigger gleaming in the dark. A crazed man raises the blade high, his facet twisted with pure malice. Pinning the helpless boy down, he sneers, ready to get a work and end his life. But just as the blade is about to fall, the attacker freezes in stunned confusion. He looks down, unable to comprehend what has stopped him from killing the tightly bound boy. Back in the present, the adventurers' camp is suddenly rocked by a massive explosion, their shelter erupting in flames. Panic spreads through the group as they look on in utter shock, realizing they're under attack. It was our protagonist. Using the very staff they tried to steal, he unleashes a powerful fire spell, turning their own greed against them. He stands back and watches as the fire consumes their camp, the first step of his revenge now in motion. Inside the inferno, the adventurers scramble in chaos, their only thought being to save their precious food and items. But one of them stops dead, pointing with a trembling finger as a far greater threat emerges from the smoke. A colossal golden slime, the area's boss monster, looms over them, its single massive eye filled with rage. The leader's face drains of color as he understands the terrifying truth of the boy's plan. He didn't just escape. He used their camp and the fire to deliberately lure the monster right to them. The slime monster attacks without warning, sending the adventurers flying like ragdolls. It smashes through the wreckage with overwhelming power, turning their camp into a field of death and destruction. From a safe vantage point, our protagonist coldly watches the so-called veterans get wiped out. He calmly assesses the situation, noting how easily these experienced fighters are failing against a real threat. His plan worked perfectly. He knew the boss monster was nearby and used the commotion to draw it out. The surviving adventurers run for their lives, their earlier confidence accomplished shattered. The protagonist explains to his companion that this washes calculation all along. He knew this monster's secret, and his true plan instantly now beginning to unfold. The golden slime's entire body is composed of powerful acid, making it a nightmare for melee fighters like them. Sheer terror is visible in their eyes as they face a foe they can't even touch without melting. The monster unleashes a devastating beam of acid, forcing them to desperately dive for cover. To their horror, they realize the monster has ranged attacks too, leaving them with nowhere to run. A deadly rain of acid arrows begins to fall from above, cornering the adventurers and sealing their fate. Acid rain continues, the parties. Tank can only scream in frustration, realizing how hopelessly outmatched they are. Panicked, the adventurers try to flee the deadly barrage, with their leader shouting that they need to wait for the monster's 1-minute cooldown. Their only hope is to find an opening after this attack, but the monster's core glows ominously, suggesting another assault is imminent. But one man, Max, smirks with a devilish glint in his eye, clearly having a different plan in mind. Breaking formation, he sprints ahead of his terrified party members, determined to take matters into his own hands. "Just leave it to me," he roars, leaping directly at the giant slime monster with Histiger drawn for the kill. His teammate can only watch in horror, reaching out in a desperate, futile attempt to stop the reckless charge. But Max's bravery is met with a brutal reality as a powerful blast of acid sends him flying backward, completely neutralized. The party is stunned into silence, their last glimmer of hope instantly extinguished by the monster's overwhelming power. The creature's massive eye focuses, and they soon realize its cooldown isn't 1 minute, it's already down to 30 seconds. Before they can even recover from the shock, the acid arrow skill is unleashed once again far sooner than they anticipated. The corrosive acid is shown dissolving a skeleton in mere moments, a horrifying preview of the party's impending fate. Amidst the chaos, our protagonist, Kanjin Heek, calmly observes the rampaging slime monster from a safe distance. He analyzes the situation with a cold, calculating gaze, realizing the information he had wasn't wrong, just incomplete. As he inspects the melted remains of other adventurers' gear, he deduces the terrifying truth. The monster's cooldown decreases as it grows stronger. It all clicks into place. He now understands why every party that challenged this dungeon before them was completely wiped out. This creature has evolved far beyond a normal dungeon monster, becoming a calamity on par with a Red Gate boss. Landing softly, Jin Hyuk accepts that for this party, the mission is already a complete and utter failure. A memory flashes through his mind of a mysterious, powerful figure challenging him to prove his worth. A faint, determined smile plays on Jin Hyuk's lips. It seems she's ready to accept that challenge right here and now. The giant slime monster finally takes notice of the lone figure, shifting its massive body to face its next target. Its strange, unblinking eye locks onto Jin Hyuk, charging up for another deadly attack. An instant later, a concentrated beam of pure acid energy erupts from the slime, hurtling directly towards him. The attack misses its mark, splashing harmlessly against a rock as Jin Hyuk has already vanished from his spot. Perched high on a tree branch, Jin Hyuk realizes his initial magic attack on its core was ineffective due to the creature's high magic resistance. Just then, a fleshy, pulsating organ emerges from the slime. And Jin Hyuk knows that's his real target, he just needs to hit it a few more times. Deciding he can't afford to wait for another opening, he grips his staff and pulls out a dagger, preparing for a direct confrontation. With a confident grin, Jin Hyuk formulates a new, risky strategy to take down this seemingly invincible foe. The monster unleashes another furious volley of acid shots, intent on obliterating the nimble hunter who keeps evading it. In a flash of movement, Jin Hyuk leaps from the branch just as it's completely vaporized by the monster's relentless awe. Falling through the air, Jin Hyuk narrowly evades the monster's acidic spit that obliterates the ground below. He masterfully twists his body, dodging a relentless volley of projectiles while preparing his counterattack. With a grimace of determination, Jin Hyuk focuses, knowing this next phase of his plan has to be perfect. He channels his mana into the rope, a faint blue glow signaling the activation of a special skill. His target is the giant sword still embedded in the monster's head. He must strike that exact spot without a single millimeter of error. This level of precision is only possible because of a title held in his past life, making him far from a run-of-the-mill mage. Using Histif as a conduit, Jin Hyuk begins weaving through the barrage, igniting his own magical assault. The monster unleashes another enormous blast, but Jin Hyuk's already one step ahead, using the chaos to his advantage. He lands gracefully in one of the creature's own writhing tendrils, using its body as a temporary foothold. Launching himself back into the air, he continues his death-defying dance among the lethal projectiles. Swinging from his enchanted rope, unleashes his first spell, Fire Arrow. A direct hit. But it's not enough to break through the monster's defense. He needs 3 more just like it. With incredible agility, he fires again while flipping through the air, landing another precise shot. 2 more to go. His attacks are aimed at the hilt of this sword, focusing all his power on that single, vulnerable point. He fires his 3rd fire arrow, each shot a calculated step in his brilliant plan to expose the creature's weakness. Using a tree as an anchor, he swings wide, building momentum for his final, decisive shot. The monster looks on, believing these small attacks are pointless, completely unaware of the trap being sprung. The 4th and final arrow strikes true, triggering a massive chain reaction as his concentrated magic explodes. The blast rips through the monster's flesh, finally revealing its shimmering red core. Hovering in the air, Jin Hyuk looks down at the exposed weak point. The moment he's been waiting for finally at hand. His eyes blaze with killing intent as he gathers the last of his mana for the finishing blow. He dives straight down like a meteor, aiming to plunge his staff directly into the monster's core before it can regenerate.
Just as he's about to strike the core, the massive slime monster swats at him like a fly. He's caught. The creature's sticky body completely engulfs him, but this is far from over. With a glint in his eye, our hero reveals he has an ace up his sleeve. A glowing blue ring on his finger activates, pulsing with immense power. From it, he summons a spectral sword, planting it firmly into the ground to create a diversion. The ground erupts in a blast of energy, launching him clear of the monster's grasp. Now airborne and free, he whips out a new weapon, a fiery chain spear, ready for the real counterattack. The spearhead ignites, blazing with an intense, destructive heat. The slime monster instinctively raises its arm to defend, but it's already too late. A confident smirk spreads across his face. He's already calculated his victory. He launches the spear, which wraps around the beast's arm like a fiery serpent, pulling him in close for the final blow. The spearhead makes contact, and a massive explosion of fire and energy tears through the monster's body. The violent chain reaction consumes the monster, leaving nothing but searing light in its wake. Its gelatinous body begins to bubble and boil, unable to regenerate from such a devastating attack.
Suddenly, a massive singular eyeball emerges from the boiling mass, revealing the monster's true core. The core destabilizes and detonates in a final cataclysmic explosion that shakes the entire forest. But our hero is always one step ahead, using his summoned sword as a grappling hook to escape the blast radius. He expertly maneuvers through the chaos, never once losing his cool. The spectral blade, tied to a sturdy rope, proves to be an incredibly versatile tool in his arsenal. Using his staff as an anchor, he swings around a tree, putting distance between himself and the fading explosion. He glances back, a look of grim satisfaction on his face as his plan comes to fruition. As the smoke clears, all that's left is a smoldering crater and pools of melted monster. He lands gracefully amidst the aftermath, the ground still sizzling beneath his boots. Standing tall over his defeated foe, the battle appears to be won. But then, he senses a faint pulse of energy, realizing he's missed something important. He reaches out, and the monster's glowing red core, the source of its power, materializes in his hand. With a swirl of magic, he seals the core away, claiming his well-earned prize from the difficult hunt. But instead of storing the core, a mysterious teal flame suddenly erupts from our hero's body. He envelops the pulsating red mana stone with his unique energy, beginning a dangerous and unknown ritual. With a powerful grip, the magic is suppressed, leaving only the intensely glowing prize. We cut to a flashback of one of the treacherous hunters, holding a similar core crackling with violent energy. In a desperate last act, he unleashed its full power, causing a devastating explosion inside the gate. Back in the present, our hero reports the mission's outcome to a gruff-looking man with an eye patch. The man listens intently, his expression unreadable as our hero calmly recounts the events. He puffs on his cigar, silently judging the young hunter's unbelievable story of survival. Our hero explains that the party members who was assigned were nothing but backstabbing thieves, only after the monster's core. He coldly concludes his report, stating that the treacherous hunters all met their end inside the dungeon.
The eye patch man doesn't even flinch, absorbing the news of their deaths without a word. Realization dawns on him as he connects the story to the hunter's explosive power. It all melted, he mutters, understanding the scale of the loss. He grits his teeth in frustration, furious that all the other valuable monster parts were destroyed in the blast. The man then begins to explain the complicated rules of conquering high-level gates. Not only is the number of people who can enter a gate strictly limited, but the gate's difficulty and circle level, indicated by its color, pose an even greater challenge. He says that facing these obstacles is the true test for any party attempting such a dangerous raid. I see, so only you barely managed to survive, the man concludes, but he's still missing one crucial piece of information. Our hero maintains his calm demeanor, knowing the biggest shock is yet to come. The man demands to know what happened to the Mana Stone, the most valuable prize from the hunt. With a confident smirk, our hero clenches his fist, preparing for the stunning reveal. The man's eyes shoot wide open in sheer disbelief as he begins to realize the impossible truth. "I ate it," the hero declares, a faint glow emanating from his hand as he confesses to the unbelievable act. The man explodes in shock, shouting, "Did you absorb the Mana Stone from a fourth circle gate? A feat that should have killed him instantly?" Having proven his immense and unheard-of potential, our hero finally demands the reward he was promised for the mission. But the Eye Patch Man's response catches him completely off guard. Instead of his payment, he makes a far more lucrative offer. Work for him, and he'll be treated as a C-rank adventurer. Wasting no time at all, the Guildmaster immediately begins drawing up a brand new contract. He explains that promoting someone who isn't even a third circle mage directly to C-rank is completely unprecedented. This would be a massive leap up the ladder, bypassing the entire novice tier and making him a respected junior adventurer overnight. The Guildmaster realizes our hero's performance wasn't just good luck. His senses and decision-making are anything but normal. This wasn't just raw survival instinct honed from the tutorial.
No, the Guildmaster sees it for what it truly is, pure, unadulterated talent. With a greedy glint in his eye, Bjorn decides he absolutely must have this kid in his guild. But our protagonist has his own reasons for wanting to get stronger quickly. He knows a terrible future is approaching, and there's not much time left to prepare. Soon, the first of the legendary Red Ranks 100 members will appear, signaling a great change. With all the major guilds and unions making their moves, he can't afford to fall behind. Agreeing that there's no time to waste, he prepares to sign the contract right away. However, before he finalizes the deal, he informs Bjorn that he has a small favor to ask. He calmly holds out his hand, ready to make his demand. With a dead serious expression, he bluntly asks the powerful Guildmaster to lend him some money. Bjorn is taken aback for a moment, clearly not expecting such a straightforward, almost brazen request. His surprise quickly morphs into dark amusement, intrigued by the boy's sheer audacity.
The world once believed the gates were a blessing, the start of a golden age for adventurers, but this was a cruel deception, a grand trap laid by the sinister black magician. Countless heroes lost their lives inside the gates, their valor meaningless against his grand design. Then came the last day, when the veil shattered and chaos spilled into the world. Monsters flooded the earth, an endless tide of destruction that humanity was unprepared for. Back in the present, a powerful figure observes from his perch high above the city. Our hero arrives at the Grand Adventurers Guild, a place teeming with opportunity and danger. He walks with a determined gait, cutting through the crowd on a mission known only to him. He's not here for fame or fortune, he's looking for something, or rather someone, very specific. Ignoring the hustle and bustle of the city, his focus remains completely unwavering. His path takes him away from the main hall and towards the city's more shadowy districts. He navigates the winding streets filled with mercenaries, searching for a particular establishment. With confident steps, he finds a nondescript door tucked away in a back alley, exactly where his information said it would be. Taking a breath, Legion steels himself before heading inside to face what awaits. He's immediately approached by a fast-talking broker, a man who deals in information and shady jobs. The man assumes he's just another new adventurer looking for a party or a simple quest. Other hardened mercenaries look on, sizing up the mysterious newcomer with suspicion. But Legion cuts him short, stating plainly that he has come looking for a specific person. The broker's smile vanishes, surprised by the direct and unusual request.
His expression shifts as he leads Legion down a dark, ominous hallway into the building's depths. He reveals they're in the punishment ward, a prison for the guild's most difficult members. The broker explains this is where they keep troublemakers, like the very man Legion is asking for. Stopping in front of a heavily reinforced cell, the broker nervously gestures inside. A prisoner is bound by thick, magic-suppressing chains, a testament to his dangerous nature. A bead of sweat rolls down the broker's face. Even he is terrified of this captive. He confirms the prisoner's identity, his voice laced with fear as he glances at Legion. Legion stares into the cell, a flicker of triumph in his eyes. He has found the man he's been searching for. Inside the cell sits Debo, a man bound by chains, but whose defiant eyes show he's far from broken. Legion calmly looks at him, stating his purpose for being here. "I've been looking for you." But Debo isn't interested in making friends, immediately telling his mysterious visitor to get lost. The nervous warden quickly steps in, trying to warn Legion about how dangerous this particular prisoner is. As if on cue, Debo proves the warden's point by straining against his chains with pure, unadulterated rage. The warden insists he's a lost cause, nothing more than a mad dog that's beyond any help. Legion, however, simply smirks, completely unfazed by the warnings or the aggressive display. He reveals they have a history, having often been compared since they awakened in the same region. Realizing Legion isn't leaving, Debo's aggression turns to business, and he asks how much his services will cost. With a greedy glint in his eye, he names an exorbitant price, a staggering 1 million meso. Legion doesn't even flinch at the absurd amount, his expression remaining cool and calculated. His mind flashes back to the real reason he's here, a promise made to a dying girl suffering from the black blood disease. Returning to the present, Legion reaches into his cloak, ready to meet the mercenary's shocking demand.
Debo's eyes widen in anticipation, his entire focus lasered in on the possibility of a massive payday. And just like that, Legion produces the full 1 million meso, a fortune in cash held right before Debo's eyes. The warden and Debo are left utterly speechless, shocked that he's actually serious about the payment. But Legion has his own terms, stating he gets priority choice for the next 3 items Debo acquires. He presents a prepared contract to seal the deal, proving this was his plan all along. Without a moment's hesitation, Debo snatches the paper, blinded by the money and eager to make it official. He bites his own thumb, preparing to sign the contract in blood, the only way a man like him knows. With a firm press, the bloody thumbprint binds him to Legion's service. No backing out now. A subtle, satisfied smirk plays on Legion's lips. His carefully laid trap has been sprung perfectly. Debo grins triumphantly with the contract in hand, thinking he's just made the deal of a lifetime. But as the two men lock eyes, it's clear who's really in control, as Legion challenges him to prove he's worth the price. Suddenly, Legion and the porter are transported to a dense forest, the destination of their gate key. Without missing a beat, Legion spots their target, a D-rank gate with an entry limit of 8. A sinister red glow emanates from a tree, the gate's entrance clearly marked for all to see. The porter's face goes pale, realizing the danger of a dungeon that requires a full party of 8. He frantically asks what they're doing here, his voice trembling with fear at the prospect of entering. The thought of facing a D-rank dungeon with just the 2 of them is more than he can handle. But he breathes a sigh of relief, assuming they'll just go back and gather enough people before entering. However, Legion has other plans, casually pointing a finger. The porter stares blankly, not understanding who his boss is pointing at. Li Gian makes it crystal clear. He isn't suggesting they find a party. He's saying the porter is enough. The horrifying realization finally dawns on him. Without a shred of hesitation, Li Gian launches his boot right into the porter's gut. He sends the poor man flying headfirst through the shimmering red portal. In a blinding flash of light, they're transported from the lush forest to a barren wasteland. The porter crashes hard into the sand as Li Gian casually strolls in after him. Furious and terrified, he screams at Li Gian, demanding to know what he's thinking. Li Gian just looks down on him, completely unfazed by his outburst. But the porter's angry tirade is cut short when he notices movement in the distance. A horde of monstrous wooden golems turns their glowing yellow eyes towards the intruders. Panicked, he realizes his shouting has alerted the entire mob, and he scrambles to defend himself. But just as he prepares for a desperate fight, Li Gian grabs him from behind. Li Gian simply tells him to wait, holding him back as the legion of golems charges forward. Suddenly, one of the charging golems bursts into flames, its wooden body turning instantly to ash. The porter can only watch in stunned silence, unable to comprehend what just happened. A whip of pure fire materializes out of thin air, lashing out at the approaching monsters. Then, dozens of fiery beams rain down from the sky, piercing through the golem's tough bark with ease. The entire horde is instantly incinerated, reduced to nothing more than smoldering piles of dust. With the threat annihilated in seconds, the porter turns to Li Gian, his mind completely blown by this overwhelming power. Leaving the porter stunned, Li Gian walks away from the destruction with a cold warning. Don't make such mistakes again. Meanwhile, in a lavish mansion under the full moon, a new plot is unfolding, as a mysterious group confirms their targets have taken the bait. Inside, a subordinate kneels before a shadowy figure, awaiting the command to move forward with their plan. The leader, a silhouette with piercing red eyes, calmly considers his next move while savoring a glass of wine. Stepping out of the shadows, we see the face of the mastermind, an arrogant nobleman with long, flowing white hair. He reveals with a sneer that he's not the one in charge, stating everything is being done according to someone else's will. He raises his glass in a toast, declaring their sinister goal, to bring freedom to the Maple World, no matter the cost.
Meanwhile, in a desolate wasteland, the smoldering remains of defeated monsters litter the ground after a fierce battle. A rugged warrior clutches his reward, a hefty bag of mana stones, the spoils of their successful hunt. His mysterious cloaked companion gives the signal to move on, their work in this area seemingly complete. The duo ventures deeper into the barren canyon, continuing their journey under the harsh, unforgiving sun. Suddenly, the warrior's eyes lock onto something in the distance, a flicker of recognition passing over his face. A wide, confident grin spreads across his face as he confirms their next targets are just ahead. Before them lies a field of stump-like monsters, and the warrior quickly sizes up the group, counting 9 in total. He seems a bit uncertain, wondering if this is a manageable number for just the two of them. His companion simply gives him a cold stare, an unnerving silence hanging between them before the action starts. The mage tosses a small lure into the field, and instantly one of the slumbering stumps awakens, its glowing eye fixing on the sound. That's the only signal the warrior needs as he launches into the air, his massive polearm ready for a devastating strike. He brings the weapon down with crushing force, splitting the monster clean in two before it can even react. The commotion awakens the entire nest, and a sea of glowing yellow eyes turns towards the lone attacker. But the warrior's eyes begin to glow with a crimson light. He's just getting warmed up and welcomes the challenge. The remaining monsters immediately swarm him, their sharp root-like limbs lunging from all directions. From the sidelines, his companion watches with a cold, analytical gaze, making no move to intervene. He's evaluating the warrior's every move, impressed by his immense talent with the weapon. A fleeting memory flashes in his mind, a powerful, shadowed woman who once wielded that very same axe. Back in the present, the warrior proves he's more than worthy, sending another stump monster flying with a single powerful blow. He marvels at the polearm, realizing its incredible range and power feel even more natural than his old sword. He puts that power to good use, effortlessly bisecting another enemy that dares to get close. This legendary weapon feels like a natural extension of his own body, a perfect tool for destruction. He spins into a devastating whirlwind of crimson and steel, carving a path through the monster horde. His movements are a blur of fluid strikes and dodges as he easily handles multiple opponents at once.
His companion is shocked, realizing the warrior's growth is happening at an impossible rate, even without a formal awakening. With a ferocious roar, the warrior charges forward, ready to annihilate the last of the monsters. But just as he's about to land the final blow, the entire canyon begins to shake violently. Massive cracks spiderweb across the canyon walls as the ground itself threatens to split apart. Suddenly, a colossal black spike bursts from the earth, signaling the arrival of a much larger threat. His eyes widen in shock. This was supposed to be a simple hunt, but now he's face to face with a true monster. Before he can even react, a massive shadowy tendril slams into him, sending him flying across the rocky terrain. He barely manages to catch himself, his eyes wide with disbelief at the creature that just attacked. It's stumpy, but it has transformed into a colossal, terrifying monster, unlike anything he's ever seen. The monster doesn't waste a second, lashing out with another powerful strike, but our hero is already on the move. He quickly pushes his companion out of the danger zone, knowing this fight is way beyond his level.
Facing the giant beast, the hero channels his magic, igniting his spear with brilliant, roaring flames. He smirks, realizing that the creature's immense size also makes it a much bigger and easier target. Seeing the magical flames, his companion clenches his fist in excitement, realizing there might be a chance after all. With a powerful thrust, he launches the fiery attack, which explodes on impact right in the monster's chest. But he isn't done yet, preparing an even more powerful follow-up attack while the creature is stunned. He activates his telekinesis skill, guiding the flaming spear with pinpoint accuracy for a decisive blow. He aims for a single powerful shot, hoping to cripple the beast and end this fight quickly. But to his shock, the monster reacts with blinding speed, swatting the spear out of the air like a fly. He can't believe it. The monster effortlessly blocked his ultimate attack. As the enraged monster lets out a terrifying roar, the axe wielder screams for him to retreat before it's too late. But our hero remains calm, his eyes narrowing as he analyzes the true threat. He realizes the main body isn't the problem. It's the countless whip-fast branches that are the real danger. Just then, dozens of razor-sharp branches rain down from above, forcing them to desperately dodge the lethal barrage. The axe wielder is clearly out of his depth, screaming in panic as the relentless assault continues. Seeing his partner in trouble, the hero activates his ring, unleashing a powerful wave of psychic energy. With his telekinesis, he tears a massive slab of rock right out of the ground. He uses it as a makeshift elevator, lifting both of them into the air and out of the branch's reach. His quick thinking earns them a brief moment of respite, impressing his newfound ally. Catching his breath, the axe wielder gives a shaky thank you, admitting he thought he was a goner. But their relief is short-lived as they realize the monster has summoned minions and they're completely surrounded. Before his partner can even process the new threat, our hero blurs into action, moving with a speed that defies belief. With his weapon once again ablaze, he prepares to carve a path through the horde of smaller monsters. He unleashes a blazing spear of fire, rocketing straight towards the giant wooden monstrosity. But his companion panics, yelling that it's too strong and they need to run for their lives. The fiery projectile slams into the beast, creating a massive explosion that rocks the entire battlefield. But through the smoke, the monster's glowing eyes reveal the initial blast wasn't enough to take it down. Suddenly, a concentrated beam of pure energy erupts from within, piercing clean through the monster's torso. The beast is impaled by the brilliant light, a look of shock spreading across its wooden face. Even his companion can't believe his eyes, stunned that the seemingly impossible attack actually landed. The protagonist stands firm, his focus unwavering as he channels immense power into his weapon. He notes that the creature's branches are moving far faster than he anticipated, creating a dense defense.
The beast's limbs expertly weave a net, deflecting his attacks while simultaneously searching for an opening. But he has an ace up his sleeve, revealing that as a second circle mage, he can conjure even more powerful magic. He unleashes a massive, amplified beam that smashes through the monster's defenses completely. While he focuses on the boss, his brawny companion desperately holds off one of its thrashing tendrils. Not letting up, the mage conjures two new spiraling bolts of flame, preparing another assault. The twin projectiles expertly weave through the tangled branches, homing in on the monster's core. He finds his opening, launching the deadly attack straight for the giant's vulnerable head. His ally grits his teeth, putting all of his strength into holding the line and buying precious seconds. But just as the attack is launched,
smaller monsters swarm the protagonist, trying to overwhelm him. His companion spots the ambush and screams a desperate warning to watch his back. With a furious spin, he unleashes a whirlwind of fire, incinerating the smaller creatures in an instant. He realizes the monster is using its minions to distract him and keep him from protecting his party. The giant groans in pain as the fiery projectiles continue to burn through its wooden body. It lets out a furious roar as the main attack finally connects, causing a devastating explosion right in its face. But the beast is far from finished, immediately slamming the ground and forcing him to leap back. He nimbly dodges another colossal swipe, the monster's speed and power leaving no room for error. In a split second, he sees the next attack coming, his eyes widening at the imminent danger. Before he can react, his companion lunges forward, grabbing him by the collar and yanking him backward. He's thrown clear just as a massive wooden arm smashes the ground where he stood moments before. The protagonist lands gracefully on his feet, saved from certain death by his quick-thinking ally. Panting heavily, the brawny fighter stands his ground, having just risked his own life to save his partner. But instead of gratitude, the man he just saved reveals a chillingly confident smirk. As magical energy erupts around him, he finally acknowledges his partner's strength, callously stating, "Okay, you finally seem useful." The exhausted warrior can only glare back, his face a mask of grim determination, a stark contrast to the mage's unwavering, arrogant smile.
The warrior, panting heavily, glances over his shoulder, his body scarred and weary from the long battle. But the mage simply scoffs, his staff flaring with power. "Okay, you finally seem useful," he declares, seeing the warrior's unbroken resolve. Their true opponent looms before them, a colossal golem of earth and stone, its massive form dwarfing the landscape. The mage immediately goes on the offensive, launching a trio of explosive fire spears straight at the monstrous target. The projectiles find their mark, blasting against the golem's hide and enraging the beast, which lets out a deafening roar. Seizing the opening, the warrior plants his weapon firmly, using it as a springboard to launch himself into the fray. The two heroes begin their coordinated assault, weaving around the golem's clumsy but powerful attacks to find an opening. A blinding beam of pure energy erupts from the mage's staff, piercing straight through the golem's shoulder and staggering the giant. The mage's eyes narrow in concentration, calculating the perfect moment for their pincer attack. Attacking from both sides, he thinks, putting their risky, synchronized plan into motion. Just as planned, the golem tries to crush the airborne warrior between its massive stone hands. With grim determination etched on their faces, both the mage and warrior prepare to unleash their ultimate combined strike. The mage's magic deflects one hand, while the warrior's axe meets the other, creating a critical opening between them. Using the creature's own body as a ramp, the warrior sprints up its arm with impossible speed, his axe biting into the stone for grip. He nimbly dodges the golem's desperate attempts to swat him away, climbing ever higher towards its head. Pushing past his limits with a guttural scream, he prepares for a devastating overhead strike, blood flying from the sheer exertion. The warrior is sent flying, soaring directly towards the golem's vulnerable head, axe held high for the finishing blow. But suddenly, the mage changes tactics, using his psychokinesis to hurl a massive boulder at the golem. The unexpected impact throws the warrior off course, his perfectly aimed attack now sent spiraling into chaos. The mage reveals his true power, controlling a storm of rocks with a mere gesture of his hand. Thinking fast, the warrior uses one of the flying rocks as a foothold, launching himself back towards the monster. He lands precariously on the golem's shifting form, realizing with frustration that he can't escape this chaotic battlefield.
Suddenly, a new, far more powerful weapon materializes in his hands as he calls out to the beast, "Let's end this, Debo." With a single fluid motion, he swings the glowing red axe, carving effortlessly through the golem's tough defenses. The weapon finds its home deep within the monster's eye, causing it to reel back with a final, earth-shattering scream. His hands are suddenly empty as the enchanted axe flies from his grasp, much to his shock. The weapon continues its deadly trajectory on its own, slicing clean through the golem in a flash of brilliant light. With the golem finally destroyed, the battered warrior struggles to his feet, a look of grim determination on his face. His enchanted axe, having done its job, soars back through the air towards its master. He reaches out with a glowing hand, ready to reclaim his powerful weapon. The axe slams back into his grip with a surge of energy, its magic flowing back into him. Meanwhile, his mysterious companion unleashes his own powerful swing in a coordinated attack. His glowing axe carves through the air, creating a crucial opening for the final blow. The shopkeeper calls out to his customer as the warrior leaps high into the air. With a guttural roar, he pours every last ounce of his remaining strength into the attack. The massive battle axe descends in a brutal, blood-soaked arc aimed directly at the golem's core. The strike lands with catastrophic force, shattering stone and unleashing a torrent of destructive energy. Using the monster as a launch pad, he kicks off the crumbling beast to escape the imminent blast. He lands hard, skidding across the fractured ground as the golem begins to destabilize. Alone on the desolate battlefield, he watches as the colossal creature finally starts to fall apart.
But the golem isn't going down quietly, as blinding beams of energy erupt from its body. The chaotic energy converges into a swirling vortex, promising one final massive explosion. In its last moments, the creature detonates, engulfing the entire area in a terrifying blast of fire. The golem lets out a silent, fiery roar as its very essence is consumed by the inferno. On his knees and utterly drained, the warrior looks over at his companion, giving it tired word of thanks. The cloaked man stands unfazed by the destruction, calmly observing the fruits of their labor. The warrior, caked in blood and dirt, acknowledges that it was a team effort that secured their victory. The flames rage on behind them, turning the once mighty golem into nothing more than a funeral pyre. Later that night, the scene shifts to a peaceful village, sleeping under the light of the moon. Inside a small home, dinner has grown cold as an empty chair waits for someone to return. A young woman sits at the table, deciding she can't wait any longer and should just eat by herself. She closes her eyes and offers a quiet prayer before her meal, a moment of peace in the quiet house. But her peaceful dinner is shattered by a sudden noise from the doorway, her eyes flying open in alarm. Nervously, she turns towards the entrance, wondering who could possibly be visiting at this late hour. A look of pure shock washes over her face as her eyes widen at the sight of the visitor. It's her brother, battered and bandaged from his fight, but he has finally returned home.
With a weary voice, he announces his return, his hand clenching with the weight of everything he's endured. Overwhelmed with emotion, his sister looks up, tears of relief streaming down her face. She leaps into his arms without a second thought, finally reunited with the brother she thought she had lost. Later that night, an eerie silence falls over their secluded home, but the peace is not meant to last. Inside, the brother clutches a menacing new weapon, his entire demeanor having shifted. The boy who left is gone, replaced by a hardened warrior with a cold, unforgiving gaze. He passes a framed photo from happier times, a painful reminder of the life that was stolen from them. After gently tucking his sleeping sister into bed, ensuring she is safe for the night, a shadow of grim determination crosses his face, revealing the difficult choice he has made. Stepping outside, he channels his power, and his weapon ignites with a fiery, pulsating aura. He turns his back on everything he once knew, leaving his childhood home to be consumed by the inferno. With the fire cleansing his past, he walks forward without a glance back, ready to begin his path of vengeance.
Meanwhile, in a lavish office, a high-ranking official of the Merchants' Union named Rakan contemplates a serious issue. A report on his desk details an upcoming event, and he knows choosing the right people to lead it will be crucial. The mission is to clear a 100-man gate, a rare and dangerous dungeon that promises epic-tier rewards to its conquerors. Even legendary mercenaries like the 3 Natasha sisters are vying for a spot, showcasing the intense competition. All 10 major merchant unions are sending their absolute best, creating a gathering of the continent's strongest adventurers. Amidst the applications from famous warriors, one file stands out, bearing the face of our protagonist. Elsewhere, a man named Elheim boldly enters the office of another union leader, presenting a list of candidates. The leader, Sir Bereth, looks up, surprised to see a controversial name being recommended for such an important task. Elheim unrolls the scroll, formally putting forward his choices for the gate-clearing party. Bereth is utterly shocked to see a former slave on the list, immediately questioning Elheim's judgment. But Elheim remains seated, completely unfazed by his superior's blatant disapproval and skepticism. He calmly states that he is well aware of Bereth's skeptical nature, showing he has full confidence in his choice. The scene shifts back to Sir Rakan, who is now listening to Elheim's final recommendation in person. With a cunning grin, Elheim assures him that this time there will be plenty of witnesses to see the boy's true power. The day of the selection arrives, and adventurers from all over gather near the forest entrance. Our hero arrives with his companion, looking around at the massive crowd of powerful-looking competitors. Almost immediately, another group of adventurers stops them, questioning their presence. The leader of the group scoffs at their arrival, openly mocking them for their former slave background. The MC's companion glares back, sensing the undisguised hostility from the other parties. The other elite adventurers look down on them with contempt, clearly seeing them as nothing more than insects. One of them smugly remarks that weaklings who were once slaves will just get in the way of the real warriors. They size them up and correctly guess they're only around 1 or 2 circles, dismissing them as utterly insignificant.
A tense standoff begins as our protagonist's small party finds itself surrounded by dozens of arrogant elites. Just then, Sir Rakan steps forward to begin the proceedings, his commanding presence silencing the crowd. The leader of the hostile party watches with a smirk, confident that his esteemed team will be chosen. Rakan makes a grand announcement. The test will determine who gets the sole chance to clear the 100-man gate. A wave of shock and excitement ripples through the adventurers as they realize the incredible stakes of this test. As the other adventurers murmur, Jihan watches calmly, already dissecting the other party's strategy. The glowing number 40 serves as a stark reminder of the high score they need to beat in this deadly test. Suddenly, a new group of adventurers is teleported into the forest, looking around with a hint of annoyance. Their leader, a sharp-looking maid named Dolan, immediately takes command, formulating a plan for his team. He instructs his large party to gather and wait for his signal, planning to use their numbers to their advantage. Meanwhile, Jihan and his exhausted-looking partner are taking a completely different approach to the challenge. Back with the other group, Dolan rallies his troops, emphasizing that they need to move quickly and efficiently. His keen senses suddenly pick up a presence in the woods, and he turns to face the first monster. A lone, crab-like creature emerges, but Dolan scoffs, unimpressed by what he sees as a trivial threat. Confident in his power, he begins to channel a powerful spell, his team watching with smug anticipation. A massive ball of blue energy materializes in his hands, crackling with destructive power. He unleashes the energy bolt, a devastating blast that rips through the ground straight toward the monster. With a bored expression, Dolan assumes the fight is already over, having expected a much greater challenge. But as the dust settles, the monster stands completely unharmed, its shell deflecting the spell entirely.
Dolan is shocked, realizing his powerful magic was useless and that they'll need a coordinated attack. His shock turns to pure terror as he senses not one, but dozens of presences closing in around them. In a horrifying reveal, a massive swarm of the same tough-shelled monsters emerges from the trees, completely surrounding the party. After a grueling battle, the surviving members of the party pant in exhaustion, having barely survived the ambush. The ground is littered with monster corpses, but the cost of the victory is clear on the faces of the tired adventurers. One of his teammates desperately asks what to do next, but Dolan is silent, his initial confidence shattered. He realizes that aiming for a high score is now a fantasy. Their only goal is to survive this nightmare. He prepares to announce a new risky plan, knowing that one more mistake could mean their end. Watching this unfold, Jihan's cold eyes reveal that he understood the nature of this trap from the very beginning. His partner, however, is completely wiped out, complaining that Jihan just stood by while he did all the work, hinting at a much deeper strategy. While his partner is battered and bruised, Jihan looks completely untouched, ready to explain his seemingly lazy strategy. He tells his partner that he was just observing what the other parties were doing, conserving energy for the real fight. Jihan clarifies that this is a competition for the highest score, and the boss mob is not only dangerous, but also highly contested. He warns that with rankings on the line, they have no idea what dirty tricks the other teams might pull to get ahead. Just then, a faint sound catches his attention, and he realizes they aren't alone in the woods. Speak of the devil, another party is confidently marching through the forest nearby. Suddenly, one of the members spots something up ahead and points it out to their leader, a smug-looking wizard. They've discovered an escape gate, but the wizard seems more interested in the opportunity it presents. A wicked grin spreads across the wizard's face as a treacherous plan begins to form. He grabs his own teammate, complaining about their slow progress, but his eyes reveal a darker motive. The party members cry out in confusion as a strange affliction suddenly takes hold of them. The wizard laughs maniacally, revealing he's poisoned his entire party to take all the glory for himself. His victory is cut short, however, as he realizes the poison is affecting him too, and his only thought is to escape. He makes a desperate dash for the gate, trying to flee the consequences of his own betrayal. But his escape is blocked by a monstrous mushroom creature, the true guardian of the area, which towers over him. The massive beast unleashes a cloud of purple spores, revealing the true, horrifying source of the poison. The wizard is frozen in place, his glasses reflecting the absolute terror of the monster that has sealed his doom. As the hallucinogenic spores take over, the wizard's fear twists into a chilling, uncontrollable cackle.
Meanwhile, in a different part of the forest dungeon, the echoes of battle ripple through a sunlit canyon. Debo and the wizard El Palm walk away from their latest victory, with Debo remarking on how their opponent went down without a fight. But his thoughts are suddenly interrupted when he notices something streak across the sky. It's a bright red flare, a distress signal from another party somewhere deep within the woods. Following the signal, they arrive at a clearing to find a large, heavily armed party already assembled. El Palm calmly assesses the tense situation, his gaze sweeping over the wary adventurers. Their leader, a rugged man named Ibori, steps forward and explains that one of their scouting parties has gone missing. He seems incredibly on edge as he impatiently demands to know what our duo has seen. It turns out the scouts were tasked with locating the dungeon's boss, but it seems their mission went terribly wrong. Ibori's face darkens as he reveals the grim truth. They didn't just find the boss, they were found by it. The group learns the horrifying fate of the missing party, who were utterly annihilated by the dungeon boss, the mad poisonous mushroom. Shock and fear ripple through the crowd as they realize the true scale of the monster they're now trapped with. With the boss now roaming freely, the party's first priority becomes finding the escape gate. Debo begins to panic, knowing that a direct confrontation with a monster of that level is certain death. But while his companion is losing his nerve, El Palm remains unnervingly composed. Debo grabs the wizard, desperately pleading that they use ranged attacks to take the monster down from a safe distance. But Ibori scoffs at the naive suggestion, stating it's impossible to reach the gate while the boss is hunting them. As Debo tries to argue, El Palm cuts him off with a cold, simple command to shut up. The wizard states plainly that running is not an option. They will die if they don't engage the beast head-on.
Debo is left speechless, the terrifying reality of their situation finally crushing his spirit. Ignoring his friend's despair, El Palm turns to face the entire anxious party. Ibori dismisses the chatter as pointless, but El Palm isn't interested in his opinion. The wizard raises his hand, his simple gesture silencing the entire clearing and commanding their full attention. Even the grizzled party leader is taken aback by this quiet stranger's sudden display of authority. With all eyes on him, El Palm confidently steps forward, ready to take command of the entire raid. "I have a plan for you guys," he announces, his voice holding a conviction that no one else dares to show. And just like that, the two newcomers stand before the massive party, with the mysterious wizard now calling the shots. Debo can only watch in utter disbelief, his mind reeling from his friend's audacious power play. Ibori, however, is furious, snarling that this boss isn't some predictable mob they can simply outsmart with a clever trick. Ibori scoffs at Jihan's party, declaring that weaklings and slaves are nothing but a hindrance in a high-level raid. He points accusingly at our hero, mocking his companions as just a low-level adventurer and an unawakened nobody. Veins bulge on his forehead as his eyes glow with rage, completely underestimating the man standing before him. But Jihan remains unfazed, calmly offering to demonstrate a strategy that even Ibori's high-level party failed to see. With a smirk, he claims that his party of so-called weaklings can indeed clear the boss, much to Debo's utter shock. Debo stares at his own hand in disbelief, as he has only just awakened to a single circle of mana.
Ibori laughs mockingly, questioning how such a low-level party could possibly succeed where he failed. However, one of Ibori's more level-headed party members steps in, stopping the argument before it escalates. She proposes a deal. If Jihan's team can show them how to defeat the boss, she's willing to pay any price for the information. Jihan agrees, but with a condition. If they fail, they will simply leave the dungeon without reward. His sharp gaze reveals a confidence that goes beyond mere bluffing. He has a foolproof plan. The two parties face off, the tension thick in the air as they prepare to witness Jihan's strategy firsthand. With the terms set, Jihan coolly tells them to make their choice, leaving Ibori and his team to ponder the risky offer. The plan revolves around activating two ancient stone pillars located deep within the boss's territory. Guarding these pillars is the fearsome mushroom specter, a boss that has already claimed the lives of several adventurers. Jihan explains that the boss has a deadly long-range attack, firing a powerful energy blast at anyone who enters its line of sight. This attack is an instant kill, vaporizing its target in a massive explosion and making a direct approach impossible. The strategy is simple. Jihan and Debo will act as bait, drawing the boss's attention while the others make a run for the pillars. As they step into the clearing, the specter's crimson eyes immediately lock onto them, taking the bait perfectly. With a terrifying roar, the monster charges forward at an incredible speed, forcing the two to flee for their lives. The massive beast barrels after them, its gaping maw snapping just inches away as they sprint towards their goal. Seeing their chance, the other party members dash towards the pillars, yelling to activate the device before the boss catches up. A hand slams down on the stone switch, and the ancient mechanism begins to work to life. A brilliant beam of light connects the two pillars, creating a powerful energy field right in the boss's path. The energy forms a swirling vortex, a portal to another area, and the party dives through to safety. But just as they escape, the charging specter crashes headfirst into the unstable portal.
Debo looks back in a panic, a cold sweat breaking out as he realizes the plan had an unforeseen consequence. The portal didn't just serve as an escape route, it's now spewing out a horde of smaller, aggressive mushroom monsters. Debo grips his axe, its blade glowing with power as he prepares to face this unexpected wave of enemies. With a furious roar, Debo unleashes his charged-up axe, determined to carve a path through the horde of monsters. The fiery arc of his weapon cleaves through multiple snake-like creatures in a single, devastating blast of energy. But just as he clears a path, an even larger beast ambushes him from behind, its horrifying maw wide open for the kill. Before the creature can strike, it's suddenly engulfed in a massive fiery explosion, saving Debo at the very last second. From the shadows emerges the true threat, a monstrous creature with a bone-white face and a bloodthirsty, guttural growl. As this new beast appears, a blinding flash of light lances out, striking a different, mushroom-headed monster. The attack is a radiant spear of energy launched by our protagonist who has been channeling his own powerful ability. Enraged by the sneak attack, the mushroom monster shrieks and charges forward, its attention now locked onto our heroes. They've drawn too much attention. The duo is forced to flee as an entire swarm of the mushroom creatures gives chase. With the ground shaking behind them, they make a desperate leap of faith, jumping off a high cliff to escape the horde. The monsters are relentless, smashing the very ground they just stood on, barely missing them by an inch. But the true boss of the area, the skull-faced beast, roars in frustration, watching its prey escape its grasp. It's not giving up yet. The monster hurls a projectile down at them, but our hero is already preparing a counterattack mid-air. With pure focus etched on his face, he gathers a swirling vortex of energy, ready to meet the attack head-on. The two attacks collide in a spectacular explosion, a maelstrom of fire and dark energy lighting up the canyon. The force of the blast is so immense it parts the river below, creating a powerful shockwave on the water's surface. As the raging currents surge, it's clear this single clash has completely reshaped the landscape around them.
Gasping for air, our protagonist drags himself onto the shore, the shock of his near-death experience still fresh. He coughs up water, completely spent from the battle, while his mysterious companion looks on, seemingly unfazed. Still reeling from the fight, he screams in frustration, demanding to know what kind of monster they just barely survived. But the mage calmly wrings out his cloak, suggesting they just need to prepare better for their next attempt. Enraged by this nonchalant attitude, our hero grabs him, completely baffled by his partner's intentions. He can't believe his ears, stammering that his partner is talking as if they're actually going to fight the boss again. He completely loses it, screaming that retreating was the only sane option from the very beginning. They never would have come if they knew the boss was the infamous mad poisonous mushroom. With their fire arrows being completely useless, he demands to know how they could possibly win. But the mage's cold eyes reveal a different plan, as he calmly states that the situation has now changed. He coolly reminds the warrior of their binding contract, questioning if he's planning to break their agreement. The weight of the contract hits him, and though cornered, he tries to negotiate for a bonus for this suicide mission. He insists he's not throwing his life away on an impossible task, where no attacks seem to have any effect. Desperately, he demands a viable plan, needing some glimmer of hope that this isn't just a lost cause. The mage simply turns back with a knowing look, his silent confidence doing little to calm his partner's nerves. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, a group of mercenaries watches as survivors begin to trickle out of the gate. Their eye-patch-wearing leader stops one of the escapees, asking if a certain punk is still inside. Panting heavily, the survivor struggles to explain the chaos that unfolded within the dungeon. He reveals that their party members were used as bait, and 2 people stayed behind to fight the boss alone. This news catches the leader by surprise, wondering who would be so reckless. Another member of the escape party confirms the story, still shaken by the sheer power of the dungeon boss. However, the leader coldly dismisses them, ordering his own squad to pack up and leave.
Shocked, she protests, arguing that since the gate is still open, the 2 inside must still be alive. But he scoffs at the idea, stating their deaths are inevitable and he won't waste time on them. His ruthless pragmatism is on full display as he writes them off as already dead. As he walks away with his elite guards, he callously states that he has no use for average adventurers. The kind of person he's truly searching for is someone with the power to overcome impossible odds all on their own. And as if on cue, Jihan finds himself in just such an impossible situation, facing down a fearsome boss monster. The creature lunges forward, its fiery spear crackling with immense power, ready to incinerate him. But Jihan doesn't flinch. Instead, a confident smirk plays on his lips as he prepares his counterattack. The 2 forces collide in a spectacular explosion of light and fire, shaking the very ground beneath them. Jihan's attack pushes back, a brilliant beam of energy meeting the monster's spear head-on. He knows this boss is on another level entirely, faster, stronger, and it even uses a deadly poison. But Jihan has a new trick up his sleeve, using his telekinesis to spin his arrow at an incredible speed. He's turning his arrow into a piercing drill, an idea he borrowed from the concept of a bullet. He unleashes his ultimate technique, a devastatingly powerful skill he calls revolver. The spinning projectile smashes into the boss with unstoppable force, tearing through its defenses. The creature lets out a piercing shriek of agony as the attack begins to shred it apart. Jihan watches on with cold, calculating eyes, ensuring his attack hits its mark. His powerful attack shatters the monster's weapon, but it seems he didn't land a direct hit on the core.
The monster stands, wounded but defiant, and Jihan realizes his devastating attack only grazed it. Seeing its foe still standing, the boss growls in frustration, realizing this fight is far from over. With a blood-curdling roar, the monster unleashes a wave of dark energy, preparing its next move. But just as it's about to strike, something slams into the side of its head, catching it completely off guard.
Jihan realizes that a direct assault might not be enough to win this fight on his own. It seems his earlier shot was just a lure, a glowing distraction meant to buy him precious seconds. As the monster turns, it's struck again, but this time by one of its own minions. The smaller mushroom monster explodes on impact, dealing even more damage to the enraged boss. Enraged by the betrayal of its underlings, the boss monster lets out another furious screech. But Jihan's eyes widen in surprise. This unexpected turn of events wasn't part of his plan at all. Suddenly, a rope wraps around the monster's leg, pulled taut by an unseen force. A mysterious masked figure emerges from the shadows, revealing himself as the one controlling the minions. With a powerful heave, he yanks the boss monster off its feet, leaving it completely vulnerable. The man's trap springs, and a massive cloud of yellow spores erupts, engulfing the struggling beast. The spores hit their mark, and the fungal beast staggers back, its body convulsing from the unexpected attack. The beast stands stunned in the murky water, the spores clearly having a debilitating effect on its monstrous form. Seeing his opportunity, the young man grips his weapon, his eyes locked on the paralyzed monster, ready to strike. A pained hiss escapes the creature's massive maw, its sharp fangs dripping as its strength begins to fail. He doesn't waste a second, igniting his weapon with a fiery aura as he swings it in a devastating arc. The heavy blade connects with a sickening crunch, shattering the creature's skull and sending purple ichor flying everywhere. But it's not over yet, as another figure emerges from the shadows, a blindfolded man preparing his own follow-up attack. He grips his weapon tightly, channeling all his strength into a single, decisive motion. The monster's life fades, its jaw hanging limp as the last vestiges of its power dissipate into the air. With the beast defeated, the blindfolded man smirks, issuing a chilling challenge. The air is pretty refreshing. Shall we play now?
Meanwhile, under a dark sky, a lone figure watches from a distant peak, observing the events about to unfold. The challenge begins, thrusting our hero into a murky swamp where a grotesque mushroom beast lies in wait. His opponent looks on with a cold gaze, confirming the conditions for this deadly trial have been met. The creature's primary weapon seems to have been nullified, leaving it enraged and screeching in fury. With a glint of determination, our adventurer channels blazing hot energy into his massive battle axe. He leaps in the air, putting all his strength into a devastating overhead swing that glows with power. The fiery arc of the axe carves through the air, aimed directly at the monster's head. A direct hit. The blade smashes into the beast, sending purple blood flying as it screams in agony. The monster reels from the powerful blow, its claws flailing as the axe tears through its flesh. With a final mighty heave, he sends the creature crashing back into the swampy water. But he knows a simple hack-and-slash approach against such a foe is a losing strategy. To win this, he'll have to use his deadliest skills, even if it's the worst-case scenario. He unleashes his trump card, a skill named Revolver, gathering a maelstrom of fire. In a blinding flash, a concentrated beam of pure thermal energy erupts towards its target. The fiery blast engulfs the monster, striking it with the force of a cannonball. The beast is incinerated within the inferno, its desperate shrieks echoing across the swamp. As the flames die down, our hero stands ready, his axe planted firmly in the ground. He cautiously peers through the smoke, wondering if the relentless assault was finally enough to kill it. But to his horror, a massive silhouette begins to rise from the smoldering ashes. Watching from afar, his opponent screams in disbelief, shocked that the monster is still standing. Wasting no time, our hero charges forward again, his flaming axe ready for another decisive strike. The monster, though heavily damaged, glares back with fury as the axe descends upon it. In a shocking display of power, the beast catches the massive axe with its bare claws, stopping the attack cold. The adventurer can only stare in disbelief as his ultimate attack is effortlessly neutralized by the creature. Seeing his chance, the opponent activates his own skill, a glowing blue ring signifying his intervention.
Suddenly, powerful streams of water erupt from the swamp, lunging towards the distracted monster. The magical torrent wraps around the beast, pulling the axe free from its grasp and trapping it. Completely ensnared, the monster is left helpless within the swirling vortex of water magic. Seizing the opportunity, our hero leaps into the air, preparing for a vicious counterattack. He launches himself forward, delivering a bone-shattering kick directly into the creature's exposed jaw.
The sheer force of the blow sends the creature flying back, where it crashes hard into the murky swamp water. It disappears beneath the surface with a huge splash, momentarily taken out of the fight. But our hero doesn't pause for a second, vaulting onto a log to face the next monstrosity. He immediately winds up, putting all of his strength into a powerful swing of his spear. He closes the distance in a blur, dashing towards the grotesque mushroom-headed beast. Not relying on his weapon alone, he channels energy into his hand as a strange blue light emanates from his ring. Suddenly, a torrent of razor-sharp energy erupts from the ground, engulfing the new monster completely. The creature is trapped in the vortex of power, its body being shredded from all sides. The relentless assault rips chunks out of its fleshy mushroom cap, leaving it brutally wounded. It lets out a silent, horrifying shriek as its skull-like face is battered by the attack. The monster stumbles backward, completely overwhelmed and unable to defend itself. The powerful vortex sends it hurtling through the air, leaving it wide open for a final blow. Seizing the opportunity, our hero summons a glowing battle axe and hurls it with deadly precision. But wait, the axe slices through a smaller, shadow-like creature that was secretly clinging to the monster's back. The weapon then finds its true mark, impaling the mushroom monster and pinning it to the swamp floor. Just as one threat is neutralized, the first monster emerges from the water, still very much alive and ready for more. Exhausted, our hero catches his breath, but his attention is suddenly drawn to a high cliff overlooking the battlefield. He pants heavily, trying to recover his stamina while trying to identify this mysterious new presence. A man with a smug grin stands atop the peak, casually observing the entire life-or-death struggle. Our hero's eyes widen in utter disbelief. He recognizes this man. The man on the cliff gives him a nonchalant thumbs up, as if he's just watching a performance. Suddenly, a vision flashes of a powerful white-robed figure descending from the sky like an avenging angel. His focus is broken as the surviving monster lets out a piercing shriek, enraged and ready for round two. The man on the cliff finally decides to act, drawing a sword that glows with immense golden light. He unleashes a devastating blast of energy that streaks down towards the swamp, shaking the very ground. But he's not the only one watching. Another powerful figure observes from afar, sensing something is amiss, and unleashing his own attack. Back on the ground, the monster is suddenly engulfed in a wave of blue energy, lifting it helplessly into the air once more. The beast crashes down, unable to resist the pull of gravity. Its body plummets like a stone, a helpless silhouette against the canyon floor.
With a deafening crack, the monster smashes headfirst into a stone pillar, momentarily stunned. Our hero knows he's running on fumes, with only enough mana for one last fire arrow. But down below, his companion grits his teeth, his fighting spirit far from extinguished. Fueled by pure rage, the warrior lets out a defiant roar, refusing to back down. He channels all his remaining energy into his weapon, unleashing a brilliant golden slash. The monster flinches, caught off guard by the sudden, ferocious assault from below. From his high ground, the mage watches his partner's desperate counterattack unfold. The golden arc of energy connects, carving into the beast and making it screech in pain. Staggering back, the monster is set splashing into the murky water, completely off balance. A wild, bloodthirsty grin spreads across the warrior's face as he presses his advantage. He closes the distance in an instant, not giving the creature a single moment to recover. Just then, the mage unleashes his own attack from above, a massive cross of light that screams danger. The blinding beam careens towards the battlefield, aimed squarely at the reeling monster. The creature's glowing red eyes widen as it senses the immense power descending upon it. In a panic, its tough exterior splits open, revealing a grotesque, pulsating core within. Multiple eyes stare out from the fleshy mass. This has to be its true weak point. But the mage lowers his staff, revealing not a weapon of mass destruction, but a simple signal flare. The warrior freezes in disbelief. Was that entire spectacular light show just a bluff? The feint worked perfectly. As the monster is distracted, the mage's staff ignites with true lethal power. He unleashes his final spell, Revolver, a spiraling torrent of fire that drills through the air. The attack slams directly into the exposed core, burning through the creature's defenses with a horrific screech. A brilliant beam erupts from the monster's back as the spell pierces straight through its body. The mage watches coolly as his attack detonates, causing a massive explosion from within the beast. The warrior can only stare in awe as a shockwave of purple energy rips through the canyon.
He's sent flying by the sheer force of the blast, caught completely in the chaotic aftermath. Standing calmly amidst the destruction, the mage looks down, his plan having succeeded flawlessly. As the smoke clears, he alone remains standing on the cliffside, the victor of this hard-fought battle. His companion, Debo, battered and bloody, asks if their grueling fight is finally over. Our hero calmly looks back, commending his partner for a job well done. The plan seems simple, just wait for the monster's poison to dissipate and then collect the valuable mana stone.
But just as he relaxes, his eyes snap wide with alarm. Something is terribly wrong. The fallen monster's remains begin to twitch as its mana stone pulses with a sinister crimson light. Suddenly, a violent torrent of dark purple energy erupts from the stone, surging outwards. The two warriors can only stare in shock as the ominous energy fills the air around them. But as the dark tendrils envelop Debo, he doesn't scream in pain. He grins with pure, manic ecstasy. The scene cuts to a lavish office where a guild leader laughs at his subordinate's failure to return with the prize. The man, draped in a fur-lined coat, seems to find the entire report incredibly amusing. His subordinate, a rugged man with an eye patch, is clearly not happy with his leader's mockery. Annoyed, he turns to leave, reminding his boss that they were not to be disturbed. However, just as his hand reaches for the door, he stops dead in his tracks. He looks back over his shoulder, shocked by the unexpected visitor who has just appeared. It's our hero, standing in the doorway, looking worse for wear, but radiating an incredibly powerful aura. Seeing this, the leader's laughter fades, replaced by a wide, predatory grin. His eyes gleam with unconcealed malice. This is exactly the outcome he was hoping for.
Battered but alive, El Pome announces his return from the perilous expedition, his eyes burning with intensity. The eye-patch-wearing branch manager, Kaid, looks on in disbelief, shocked to see the young adventurer still standing. But another man, the guildmaster, reveals a wicked grin, absolutely delighted by this unexpected turn of events. As El Pome steps into the office, the guildmaster mockingly asks if a ghost has returned from the grave. He addresses El Pome directly, sarcastically praising the survival skills of the infamous corpse collector of Gafok. Weakened but defiant, El Pome bows slightly, stating that he has a question for the scheming guildmaster. The two officials watch him, the guildmaster's smug expression never wavering as he entertains the boy's audacity. His eyes narrow, filled with a predatory glee as he sizes up the exhausted survivor before him. El Pome meets his gaze without flinching, a silent challenge passing between the two men. Ignoring the sarcasm, he coldly states that the man's questions sound tough, refusing to be intimidated. The guildmaster is momentarily surprised by the boy's sharp retort, his slug facade cracking for just a second. Enraged by the perceived disrespect, Kaid slams the table and roars at El Pome for his insolence. But El Pome remains completely unfazed, his calm demeanor only fueling the branch manager's fury. The guildmaster stifles a laugh, clearly amused by the chaos he's orchestrating between his subordinate and the boy. Cutting through the tension, El Pome decides to change the topic and stop beating around the bush. His eyes gleam with a strange power as he asks the guildmaster directly, "What is it that you want?" The scene shifts to a rowdy tavern where an adventurer does a spit take, utterly shocked by the news he just heard. The tavern is buzzing with rumors about El Pome's successful return and his massive 10 million misos reward. The adventurer quickly apologizes for his outburst, but El Pome is clearly uncomfortable with the unwanted attention.
His companion slams his tankard down, anxiously questioning if they were too greedy for asking for such a huge reward. El Pome just tries to keep a low profile, wiping the sweat from his brow as the rumors continue to fly. Other adventurers gossip, saying that anyone who messes with El Pome now will end up in the guild's black book. The man who was just complaining has a sudden wide-eyed realization, understanding the gravity of the situation. Just then, a group of powerful-looking adventurers approach their table, their leader's expression unreadable. The troublemaker suddenly changes his tune, slamming the bar and shouting that this works because he didn't like El Pome anyway. In a shocking turn, his entire party bows deeply, offering a sincere apology for their previous rudeness. The lead adventurer with the red bandana also bows, expressing his shame and apologizing for ever questioning El Pome's skills. To El Pome's surprise, the man holds out a pouch of coins, explaining that everyone chipped in extra as a thank you. El Pome is taken aback, reminding them that the original agreement was for only 1.5 million mesos. Holding his drink, he coolly tells them to put the money away, stating he was simply paid to do a job he completed. Iberi's gaze is cold as steel as he finishes his statement, making it clear his principles aren't for sale. The people he just saved can only look on in stunned silence, completely baffled by his refusal of their reward. Meanwhile, one of the hired goons grumbles about having to handle the payment for a job well beyond his skill level. Back at the bar, the pirate who hired him is still trying to process what just happened, asking Iberi about his real mission. He's completely lost, unable to understand why Iberi would turn down a massive bonus for a job well done. The scene suddenly shifts to a lavish office, where a high-ranking official shouts in protest over a controversial decision. His superior, a calm and calculating man, dismisses his concerns, explaining this is simply a test for their new candidate. The official with the eye patch is still bewildered, but his boss merely notes how strangely low the candidate's asking price was. He's handed a mission roster, and the details inside seem to take him completely by surprise.
He stares at the paper in disbelief, questioning how a party of just 2 people could possibly succeed. But as he reads the second name on the list, his eyes widen in pure, unadulterated terror. The superior simply leans back with a smug grin, clearly enjoying the official's panicked reaction. Looming in the official's mind is the terrifying image of the man on that list, the one and only Dark Lord Jin. "Don't be mistaken," the superior says ominously, picking up a wickedly sharp letter opener. He holds the blade with a threatening glare, making it perfectly clear that this mission is not optional. We cut to the mission site, where a colossal red gate has ripped a hole in the sky above an adventurer's camp. A group of adventurers, Ibudi's new party, are gathered around a campfire, the air thick with tension. One of the younger members looks up, startled by the arrival of another group. Ibudi stands beside his new partner, an overly confident axe wielder who tells him to lighten up and get focused. The rest of the party looks just as wary, each member preparing themselves for the battle ahead. An assassin-like member methodically sharpens his blade, his cold gaze fixed on his task. Ibudi takes in the scene, noting that the hostile atmosphere here is far more intense than he expected. A smarmy-looking man approaches, introducing himself as an E-class adventurer sent by the Merchant Union. Ibudi's eyes narrow as he calmly corrects the man's assumption, revealing he's actually a C-class adventurer. The man's arrogant smirk instantly vanishes, replaced by utter shock at this unexpected revelation. He can't believe a C-class would be on this mission, and Ibudi simply stares back, unimpressed. Their little squabble is cut short by the arrival of another figure who is clearly the party's leader. A powerful female knight in full-plate armor eyes them with disdain, her patience clearly wearing thin. The brutish adventurer complains about wasting his time on them, but our hero seems to be in deep thought. He recalls a conversation from earlier, piecing together the current situation. Back in an office, he had questioned why he needed to take on this particular task. His superior, a man with an eye patch, had simply told him to follow orders without asking so many questions. The meeting was about a new joint operation concerning a recently discovered gate. The eye patch man explained that their Gayfer Merchant Union would be working with a powerful group. That group is the Cygnus Knight Order, an elite force that has also shown interest in this gate. Following the teachings of the powerful Empress Cygnus, they are a force to be reckoned with. Since the gate's quota was already taken, Gayfer had no choice but to partner with the Knights, even if they're just trainees. He admits the Knights might have ulterior motives, but the offer was too good to refuse. But even as he listened, our hero couldn't shake a bad feeling about the whole arrangement.
His superior agreed, admitting that something about the Knights felt off. The flashback ends, and the Knight's arrogant voice cuts through the air, telling them not to think they're on the same level. Her condescending tone immediately rubs the other adventurers the wrong way. She stares down our hero's party, clearly unimpressed with the mercenary sent to assist her. Huh, did Gayfor give up completely? She scoffs, utterly disappointed with her backup. Suddenly, more parties begin to arrive, starting with Kroku's party from the Dig Merchant Union. They're followed by Kupel's party, representing the Merdia Merchant Union. The air suddenly grows tense as another formidable presence makes itself known. A new group approaches, commanding the attention of everyone present. From the Goldrich Merchant Union, the famous and deadly 3 Natasha sisters make their grand entrance. Ignoring the newcomers, the female knight addresses our hero and his party directly. But before she can continue, another man with a booming voice interrupts the tense standoff. "I'll be the guard for this raid," he announces. His name is Lonko, and he's here to provide support. Lonko gestures to the gathered adventurers, reminding them of the mission's rules. He clarifies that ownership of the gate is not up for grabs, and all items will belong to their respective merchant unions. As Lonko speaks, our protagonist's eyes narrow, sensing a hidden danger. The supposedly friendly guard then adds a chilling warning. Any troublemakers will be dealt with severely. The guard reveals that any troublemakers will face his personal squad, a full party of intimidating B-class adventurers. Our protagonist's eyes are drawn to a thorny tattoo on the leader's arm, noticing a pattern of 5 distinct circles that clearly signifies their power. He quickly realizes that every member of the guard's party bears the same powerful marking, the chilling display of force. Before any conflict can break out, the massive tree gate finally activates, its swirling red portal opening for all the waiting adventurers. Amidst the crowd, a confident blonde swordswoman from another party unexpectedly approaches, announcing that she will be taking the lead. She gives our hero a sharp, determined look, making it clear this isn't a suggestion, but a command. Her own party members are visibly shocked by her decision.
questioning why they need to cooperate with anyone else. But the protagonist pays them no mind, his focus entirely on the glowing symbol within the gate. All his preparations have been leading to this very moment. With resolve, he and his companions step forward, ready to enter the portal and face whatever lies ahead.
Inside the gate, chaos already reigns as panicked adventurers flee from an unseen threat, but our hero's party has just arrived, finding themselves in a field of impossibly tall grass. Elsewhere, the other parties are in a desperate struggle, their leader screaming orders amidst the confusion. His companion is nervous, spotting another well-equipped party forging a path ahead of them. He turns to his boss, only to find him kneeling on the ground, completely still. While his companion wonders if he's praying, our hero is actually listening intently to the vibrations in the earth. Suddenly, the other parties are alerted by a deafening sound that shakes the very ground they stand on. An earth-shattering stampede erupts from the grass as a horde of monstrous boars charges forward. These aren't ordinary animals, they are massive, ferocious beasts hungry for blood. The other adventurers are horrified, realizing they've all been caught in the same deadly stampede. One adventurer curses their luck, knowing that someone foolishly attracted this massive mob. Panic sets in completely as the different guilds and unions try to escape the carnage. As if things were bad enough, another monstrous creature burrows through the ground, adding to the mayhem. The adventurers are completely overwhelmed, scattering as the boar monsters close in for the kill. Realizing a head-on fight is suicide, party leaders order a tactical retreat to a more defensible position. But it's too late for some, as she notices with terror that several adventurers have already been swallowed by the horde. Back with our duo, the chaos has passed them by, leaving a serene but tense quiet in its wake. The companion is amazed, asking how his boss managed to anticipate the stampede and keep them safe. Our hero calmly explains that he's familiar with the ribbon pigs that inhabit these plains. He knows these creatures are just the small fry, a mere distraction from the gate's true dangers. Drawing on his memories from the future, he understands the true nature of this deadly dungeon.
He reveals that no one knows what monsters truly lurk here, and it's far more than just some pigs. In his previous life, the raid on this very gate was a catastrophic failure, resulting in the deaths of all 100 adventurers. Lost in thought, his companion's question brings him back to the present moment. Suddenly, he slams his foot down on his companion's staff, halting him in his tracks. His companion looks up, completely bewildered by the sudden and forceful action. With a loud crack, a massive log trap springs from the ground right where he was about to step. Staring at the deadly mechanism, the companion realizes his boss just saved his life from a perfectly hidden trap. Still shaking from his near-death experience, the young companion stares in horror at the trap's mechanism. His boss, however, remains completely unfazed by the devious contraption. Meanwhile, another member of their party, the hulking warrior Babel, begins clearing the path ahead. With brute strength and keen senses, he effortlessly dodges a massive log trap meant to crush him flat. He carves a path through the woods, dismantling the crude but deadly traps one by one. Babel scoffs at the simplistic nature of the traps, confidently declaring that he's cleared the area. But the mysterious silver-haired man, Crocus, warns him not to let his guard down so easily. Crocus explains that while the traps may seem childish, they are still lethal enough to kill them on the spot. He points out that their enemies have copied human hunting tactics, making them dangerously intelligent. The masterminds are revealed to be hobs, a species of monster far more cunning and difficult to handle than typical beasts. Crocus knows these creatures are equivalent to boss monsters, and underestimating them would be a fatal mistake. With the warning delivered, he takes the lead once again, guiding the party deeper into the treacherous woods. But just as they proceed, Crocus suddenly stops dead in his tracks, sensing an imminent threat. An assassin materializes from the shadows, appearing right behind the overconfident Babel. It's a coordinated ambush, as another killer strikes at the young companion from his blind spot. In an instant, the clearing erupts into a chaotic battle as masked figures descend upon the party from all sides. Crocus moves like a blur, dispatching one of the would-be assassins before they can even land a blow. However, another enemy gets the drop on him, pressing a blade to his throat and mocking his apparent arrogance.
Elsewhere, a mysterious robed man reveals his own sinister plan to use weak monsters as a distraction. He's been watching from the sidelines, manipulating events to his advantage, while others do the dirty work. He lets out a bothered sigh, clearly finding the whole affair tiresome and beneath him. With his elite retinue of red-haired warriors assembled, the mage stands and declares it's finally time for them to make their move. His soldiers look on with apprehension, sensing the immense and dangerous power their leader possesses. To demonstrate his power, he casually grabs one of his warriors and casts a spell, instantly paralyzing her. Sweat drips down her face as she's gripped by terror, unable to move a single muscle under his complete control. The mage seems amused, even impressed that she has the willpower to even think of resisting him. Then, without warning or mercy, he unleashes a devastating blast of magic at point-blank range. The other warriors can only watch in absolute horror, realizing their leader is a cold-blooded monster. Kneeling over his fallen subordinate, the mage seems to question his own actions, pondering why he would commit such a horrifying act. But in a flash, a memory resurfaces, and the reason for his betrayal becomes crystal clear. He rises to his feet with a sinister grin, his staff flaring with malevolent energy as the remaining warriors watch in terror. His facade of a hero completely shatters as he maniacally screams his true allegiance. Everything is for Sir Black Magician. Enraged by the betrayal, the red-haired warrior immediately retaliates, blasting him with a powerful fire arrow spell. However, the attack is completely useless, as the traitorous maid stands completely unharmed by the fiery explosion. He sighs with annoyance at their futile resistance, his mind drifting back to the moment this entire plan was set in motion. He recalls the conversation that sealed his fate and set him on this dark path. In a flashback, we see him standing before his true master, the enigmatic figure known as the Black Magician. He was tasked with a simple mission: hide among the heroes, grow stronger, and wait for the opportune moment to strike. His master had declared that the time to reap the fruits of his deception was finally at hand. As a loyal servant, he swore that he would not fail in his crucial mission to betray the party from within. To aid him, the Black Magician bestowed upon him a powerful artifact, a single brilliant golden feather. Back in the present, that very feather, worn as a necklace, begins to glow with immense power. With his purpose reaffirmed and his power unleashed, the mage decides it's time to stop holding back and get serious.
Meanwhile, at a fortified orc encampment, a massive battle is already underway against an unknown force. The entire fortress is under siege by a horde of crazed goblins who are fighting with reckless abandon. Our hero and his brawny companion, Jin-Tai, survey the chaos from a safe distance. Jin-Tai is completely overwhelmed by the sheer number of enemies, letting out a silent scream of terror. But the mage remains calm, trying to explain the gravity of the situation to his panicking partner. He points out that these aren't just regular monsters, they're strong variants who have looted powerful items from fallen adventurers. Worse still, some of these variants can even use the skills embedded within the gear they've stolen. Jin-Tai argues it's suicide for just the two of them, insisting they need to regroup with their party immediately. Our hero simply smirks, revealing that this was all part of his plan to deal with them from the start. As if on cue, a pair of burly orc variants are spotted patrolling the nearby woods, separated from the main horde. These aren't your average grunts, they're seasoned fighters radiating a dangerous and confident aura. Suddenly, one of them senses a presence from above and looks up just in time to see an ambush. It's Jin-Tai. He drops from the trees like a meteor, his massive axe glowing with power as he swings for the kill. With a furious war cry, he puts all his strength into this one devastating opening strike. But the orc variant is unbelievably fast, blocking the enchanted axe with nothing but its bare fist. Jin-Tai expertly uses the momentum, planting the butt of his axe into the ground to halt his charge. He immediately pivots, twisting his body for a powerful follow-up swing, not giving the monster a moment to breathe. However, the orc is a beast of a different caliber, catching Jin-Tai mid-swing and delivering a brutal flurry of punches. Jin-Tai is slammed into the ground, helpless as the massive creature raises its foot to crush him for good. But the warrior isn't done yet. He catches the stomp and with a grin tells the monster it's being too loud. Using the orc's leg as leverage, he swings his axe in a clean upward arc, carving a deep gash into its side. The creature stumbles back in pain, shocked by the human's sheer tenacity and surprising strength. Seeing his chance, Jin-Tai pours his energy into his weapon, causing it to burn with a brilliant golden light. Ignoring the first orc, he turns his attention to its partner and brings the supercharged axe down with immense force. The attack connects, unleashing a blinding pillar of energy that completely disintegrates the second monster.
As the dust settles, the first orc, now recovered from its wound, looks on with pure fury in its eyes. Enraged by the death of its comrade, the monster abandons all defense and charges forward for a final, desperate attack. It unleashes a haymaker that lands square on Jin-Tai's jaw, the devastating impact echoing through the forest. The force of the blow sends Jin-Tai hurtling through the air, but he somehow manages to twist and land on his feet. His body is battered, but his eyes burn with furious determination as he roars, "Why can't you just die?" The orc champion, equally enraged, glares back with blood-red eyes, its patience clearly worn thin by the persistent human. It wastes no time and lunges forward, aiming to crush Jin-Tai before he can fully recover from the last hit. But Jin-tae digs his heels in, using the momentum to spring back into the fray with renewed vigor. He becomes a whirlwind of destruction, his glowing axe carving through the endless horde of orcs swarming him. He takes a brutal punch head-on, the impact rattling his bones but failing to break his fierce assault. With expert footwork, he ducks under a wild swing and delivers a punishing kick to his opponent's midsection. He follows up with another powerful kick, sending the hulking creature stumbling back and creating an opening. Even when surrounded, Jin-tae fights like a cornered beast, his weapon a blur of deadly motion. He spins his polearm to create distance, preparing for a wide, sweeping attack to clear the area around him. The ground erupts as a massive club smashes the spot where he stood just moments before, a fatal blow narrowly avoided. Seizing his chance, Jin-tae leaps high into the air, bringing his flaming axe down with one final, decisive strike. At last, the battle is over. The colossal orc champion lies defeated, its helmet and skull completely caved in. Just as Jin-tae tries to catch his breath, a mysterious figure suddenly appears and grabs his arm, stopping him in his tracks. Jin-tae, utterly exhausted and confused, glares at the newcomer, demanding to know who he is and what he wants. But his aggression instantly turns to sheer disbelief as he looks past the stranger and sees the true horror of the scene. The entire forest floor is a gruesome graveyard, littered with the bodies of dozens of fallen knights. He recognizes the crest of the prestigious Cygnus Knights and wonders what kind of monster could have caused such a massacre. The grim, pained expressions on the faces of the dead tell a story of a brutal, one-sided slaughter. While Jin-tae is horrified, the mysterious man beside him remains unnervingly calm, observing the carnage with a cold, analytical gaze. Amidst the dead, they spot a flicker of life, a lone survivor, grievously wounded and slumped against a tree. They immediately rush over to the dying knight, hoping he can provide answers about what happened here. The knight grits his teeth through the immense pain, blood trickling from his mouth as he struggles to utter his final words. Meanwhile, far away from the carnage, a man with a tactical eye patch looks out from a high window, seemingly pondering the same incident.
This is clearly a man of authority, sitting in a lavish office as he reviews the details of the disturbing report. His sharp gaze suggests a keen intellect as he pieces together the strange events that transpired in the forest. He considers the possibility of trollers, rogue players who enter gates just to ambush and kill other adventurers. However, the report from this particular incident doesn't add up, suggesting a fight with no clear winner. Whoever set this up knew it would leave the guild exhausted and with minimal manpower to clear the now open gate. The guildmaster takes a long drag from his cigar, realizing they've been played. Meanwhile, we flash back to the scene of the incident, where a party of hunters takes a brief rest before the disaster. Among them is a formidable female knight, her gaze sharp and focused on the path ahead. But a moment later, fury erupts as an armored fist smashes into the ground in utter despair. A lone survivor, a blonde-haired knight, kneels amidst the carnage, convinced there was a traitor in their ranks. Our protagonist listens intently, piecing together the knight's fragmented and grief-stricken story. He looks upon the bloody aftermath, remembering the strange orders the female knight had given right before the attack. Overcome with grief, the survivor breaks down, the terrible realization of his comrade's betrayal finally sinking in. In his mind's eye, he sees her standing before a dark, hooded figure, the mastermind behind the massacre. Back in the present, his companion is horrified to hear the name of the legendary evil responsible, the Black Magician. The Black Magician, an ancient evil whose name alone strikes fear into the hearts of hunters. Long ago, the legendary 6 heroes rose to challenge his dark reign and put an end to his tyranny. But in a desperate final battle, both the Black Magician and the 6 heroes were sealed away, leaving the world in a precarious peace. Now it seems the followers of this ancient evil have returned, and our protagonist has made it his mission to hunt them down. His friend can hardly believe that a follower of the Black Magician was behind this bloody incident, but the protagonist is resolute. They must find the female knight who betrayed her comrades. Hearing this, the surviving knight's despair turns into a burning desire for vengeance. With a look of pure hatred, he declares that revenge is exactly what he's after. At that moment, the accused female knight frantically rushes through a dense forest, clearly on the run. Her eyes dart nervously, sensing she's not alone in the woods. Suddenly, her path is blocked by a menacing figure who has been waiting for her. 2 mysterious mages greet her with sinister smiles, revealing themselves as her pursuers. The leader smirks,
pleased that their plans are proceeding without a hitch thanks to her actions. She stares back coldly, her expression unreadable as she faces the shadowy figures. Drawing her sword, she proves she's no ally of theirs and fiercely demands to know who they are. Elsewhere, the protagonist's party makes their move, carrying the injured knight they believe to be their ally. But as they carry him, we see the victim clutching a dagger pulsing with dark, corrupt energy. He was the real traitor all along.
The scene shifts to a vast windswept field under a blazing sun, where a battle is about to unfold. Figures dart across the landscape at incredible speeds, their movements kicking up dust and debris. In the heart of the chaos, a blonde knight skillfully parries the swift attack of a shadowy assassin. Watching from afar, a sinister man mocks her skill, questioning if this is the best a training captain of the Cygnus Knights can do. But the knight is relentless, gracefully deflecting every single strike that comes her way. She plants her foot firmly into the ground, gathering a powerful fiery aura around her body. Unleashing her ultimate skill, Rising Sun, her sword begins to burn with the intensity of a star. An enemy dives in from above, attempting to overwhelm her with a dual-bladed aerial assault. She meets his attack head-on, the blinding light of her blade clashing against his dark steel. The assassin's face twists in pure shock as he's completely overpowered by her immense solar energy. With a final devastating solar slash, she unleashes a wave of pure energy that vaporizes her foe. The massive attack leaves her breathing heavily, the toll of the battle showing on her face. Despite her exhaustion, her eyes burn with determination as she demands her remaining opponents reveal their purpose. Their leader simply scoffs, ordering his men to swarm her and finish the job. In an instant, she's surrounded again as a horde of assassins descends upon her from all sides. Even outnumbered, the knight becomes a whirlwind of steel and light, cutting through their ranks with brutal efficiency. The leader can't believe what he's seeing. His elite assassins are being picked apart one by one. Suddenly, her gaze sharpens, locking onto something or someone newly arrived at the edge of the field. And there he is, our protagonist, calmly observing the battle with a stoic expression. Meanwhile, back with the others, the knight continues to carry his supposedly injured comrade to safety. The traitor tightens his grip on the cursed dagger, his evil intentions about to be revealed. Without a moment's hesitation, he plunges the corrupted blade deep into his savior's back. The knight chokes in agony, his life force seemingly being drained away by a sinister crimson aura. But just as the traitor savors his victory, a massive boot comes crashing down out of nowhere. A mysterious mage has appeared, casually pinning the traitor to the ground under his foot. The backstabber screams in agony, his hand completely crushed by the stranger's immense strength. His wounded companion looks on, utterly bewildered and demanding to know what's going on. The mysterious mage remains calm and collected, taking in the chaotic scene he just walked into. He looks down at the whimpering traitor with disgust, calling his betrayal a truly awful act. The traitor's final moments flash by, his face a mask of pure terror as he realizes his mistake. But our hero's expression is cold and unforgiving. He operates on a simple principle: never trust anyone. We snap to the present, where our hero and the knight Elysia are confronted by a new, powerful-looking group. Their leader scoffs, finding it amusing that these two would dare to stand against them. His smirking underlings agree, looking down on the pair with absolute contempt. In a brief flashback, we see this same man had dealt with the previous traitor personally after giving him one last chance. Elysia watches the enemy commander, her expression tense with concern for the fight ahead. Having wasted enough time, the enemy leader orders his elites to move in and finish this quickly. Elysia shouts a warning as the enemy squad rushes forward, their target clearly being her partner. But her companion, Kang Hansu, just flashes a confident grin, more than ready for a fight. The enemy elites descend in a blur of motion, completely assured of their victory. Hansu calmly gives Elysia her orders. "You handle one of them, I'll take care of the rest." With a mighty roar, he unleashes a savage blow, swinging his axe in a devastating fiery arc. The attack connects with brutal force, sending one of the elites stumbling back in pain and shock. Hansu scoffs at his opponent's weakness. "That's one," he declares, already looking for his next victim.
But suddenly, a blast of fiery energy streaks towards him from the side, forcing him to react. The attack came from the enemy archer, who clicks her tongue in annoyance that her surprise shot missed. As he dodges, an assassin with a glowing red eye appears from his blind spot, lunging with a deadly blade. But Hansu is unfazed. He pivots and counters with an upper charge, a flaming uppercut from his massive axe. The powerful swing connects perfectly, sending the assassin flying backwards as the flames sear his flesh. The assassin crashes to the ground, clutching his burnt side, clearly wounded but not yet defeated. With a wicked grin, he promises to put Hansu out of his misery, his glowing eye burning with killing intent. He pushes off the ground, launching himself high into the air for a devastating leap attack. But he's not fast enough. Alicia moves to intercept, her sword clashing against his as she protects Hansu's back. The assassin is stunned by the unexpected block, his powerful attack completely neutralized mid-air. In that same moment, Hansu's thrown axe returns like a boomerang, cleanly taking the head of the first enemy he struck. However, there's no time to celebrate as a heavily armored spearman charges forward to press the attack. Hansu meets the spear thrust with ease, deftly parrying the blow with the handle of his axe. He uses the opening to spin and unleash a massive horizontal slash, blasting the remaining grunts away in a whirlwind of force. The remaining knights are in absolute shock, unable to comprehend Jihan's monstrous strength. But Jihan doesn't give them a second to breathe, already moving on to his next targets with relentless speed. He carves a path through the enemy ranks, his movements a deadly blur that no one can seem to track. Even their fiercest-looking commander is forced onto the defensive, completely overwhelmed by his assault. An assassin tries to land a cheap shot from behind, but Jihan turns with a predator's grin, anticipating the attack. Just as he's about to finish them off, a new, more powerful threat makes his presence known.
A high-ranking mage steps forward, his staff blazing with power as he declares, "This is as far as you go." Jihan looks up, finally halting his rampage as he senses the immense magical energy gathering before him. The mage unleashes a massive pillar of fire, a spell powerful enough to incinerate the entire field. As the inferno closes in, Jihan's eyes suddenly begin to glow with a brilliant golden light. The spell makes contact with a cataclysmic explosion that engulfs the very spot where Jihan was standing. The mage smirk, confident that no mere warrior could have possibly survived such a direct hit. Thinking it's all over, their leader smugly declares that it's time to start clearing the dungeon. But his confidence instantly vanishes as he senses something impossible emerging from the smoke. A dark silhouette stands within the fading flames, completely untouched by the blast. As the smoke clears, the mage's jaw drops. Jihan is standing there without a single scratch on him. Jihan's cold, unfazed gaze locks onto the mages, his killing intent now fully focused on them. The mage's arrogance shatters into pure terror, realizing he has provoked an absolute monster. Jihan simply raises a hand and a mysterious ring on his finger begins to glow with a vibrant cyan aura. With a smirk, he announces that it's time to introduce another guest to the party. From the glowing ring, a spectral boar of immense size materializes and charges forward with unstoppable force. The enemy party can only stare in abject horror as the monstrous summon thunders towards them. The beast slams into their front line with devastating power, sending bodies flying and shattering their formation in an instant. The beast lets out a deafening squeal, its blood-soaked maw filled with rows of razor-sharp teeth. It carves a path of destruction through the hunters, its immense body sending them flying like ragdolls. The party's mage pants heavily, realizing this monster is far more troublesome than he anticipated. With their formation shattered and morale low, the surviving hunters begin a desperate retreat. Though they've managed to fell a few of the beasts, the cost has been steep and the battle is far from over. The leader's eyes narrow with frustration. They have to get out of this gate, somehow. Elsewhere, a mysterious archer watches another group struggle, finding the whole chaotic situation a nuisance. Suddenly, a tracker calls out, having discovered footprints leading away from the carnage. The hunters are warned not to underestimate their target, as the cloaked man they're pursuing is no small fry. Sir William, the leader of the pursuers, channels his power, a golden aura flaring to life around him. Meanwhile, our protagonist's party makes their way through a quiet forest, having seemingly abandoned the main fight. While his companions seem relieved to have survived, the protagonist remains silent and observant. The brawler starts teasing their party's archer, suggesting he should have shot a simple arrow to create an opening. He's cut short by the protagonist's calm reply, his face twisting in sudden confusion. With a single word, arrow, the protagonist signals what's about to happen next. A massive, flaming arrow materializes in the sky, streaking directly towards the unsuspecting brawler. The projectile screams through the air, its fiery aura promising immense destructive power. It connects in a brilliant explosion of fire, sending the brawler flying backwards from the sheer force of the impact. The mysterious one-eyed archer lowers his bow, revealed as the casual source of this devastating attack. The protagonist watches the chaos unfold with a calm, almost analytical expression.
A tiny smirk plays on his lips, clearly unconcerned for his companion's safety. But instead of being injured, the brawler erupts into manic laughter, energized by the powerful blow. As his party questions their decision to retreat, the protagonist knows he made the right call for a bigger plan. The brawler notices a ring on the protagonist's finger, questioning if there's more to him than meets the eye. In response, a glowing blue seal appears on the protagonist's arm, radiating a powerful aura. He reveals that he's reached the peak of the first stage, hinting at a level of power his team can't even comprehend. Back with the first group of hunters, the mage stands amidst a sea of flames, realizing the man they're hunting is a terrifyingly powerful second circle user. Meanwhile, the second group of hunters is in disarray, with their tank shouting that their plan is impossible. But the party's strategist calmly refutes him, stating that taking down their target won't be so easy. His eyes narrow with cold calculation as he assesses the true complexity of their situation. The blonde knight, Aina, argues back, insisting they have important intel on the Cygnus Knights and must act now. She proposes a direct plan. They should focus on eliminating the enemies on the perimeter first. Her hand tightens on her sword, its pommel glowing with power, as she prepares for battle. However, the strategist immediately shuts her down, calling her straightforward approach completely pointless. Aina is clearly offended, her eyes widening in fury at having her plan dismissed so bluntly. He questions her logic, asking if she really thinks exposing a few grunts will solve the bigger problem. He explains that if they only cut off one branch, the rest of the organization will simply go into hiding, becoming impossible to find. Unable to contain her anger any longer, Aina grits her teeth in absolute frustration. She snaps, grabbing him by the collar and demanding to know what he wants to do instead. Losing her composure, she screams that they are the ones being targeted and they're running out of time. But even with his life on the line, the strategist only offers a smug, confident smirk. He effortlessly grabs her wrist, asking a chilling question. Who does she think the real target is? Before she can respond, the sound of footsteps in the grass alerts them that their argument has been interrupted. Suddenly, a scarred assassin with an eye patch leaps from the foliage, daggers drawn and ready for blood. Without hesitation, the party's axeman charges forward to meet the new threat head-on. A wild, bloodthirsty grin spreads across his face. He's more than ready for a good fight. He swings his massive battle axe in a deadly arc, aiming to crush the nimble assassin in a single strike. At the same time, the rest of the battlefield erupts into chaos as more assassins appear to engage the others. One of their party members is sent flying from a powerful kick, completely overwhelmed by the surprise ambush. Even Aina is forced on the defensive, grimacing as an enemy blade slices clean through her ponytail. The axeman roars at his opponent, enraged that the assassin would dare to look away during their clash. But his fury turns to shock as the assassin effortlessly parries his colossal axe with two small glowing daggers. The tables turn in an instant as the assassin presses his advantage, threatening to plunge a blade right through the warrior's eye. But just as the dagger is about to find its mark, our warrior explodes with a brutal counterattack, sending the assassin flying back. The sheer force of the kick is enough to disarm the assassin, sending his mace clattering to the ground. Wasting no time, the warrior presses his advantage, swinging his own blade in a vicious downward arc. The strike connects, and the assassin screams in agony as he's brutally punished for his failed sneak attack. It turns out this is no simple duel, as the entire clearing erupts into a chaotic brawl between two opposing groups. Focusing on his original opponent, the warrior lands a bone-crushing punch that sends blood splattering through the air. Meanwhile, watching the chaos unfold from the tree line, a woman in red takes careful aim with her crossbow. But before she can fire, an armored knight appears out of nowhere, her golden blade already poised to strike. The crossbow user barely has time to react as a blindingly fast golden slash comes right for her neck. She manages to get her crossbow up just in time to block, but the sheer force of the blow sends shockwaves through her arms. With a desperate cry, she struggles to hold her ground against the relentless assault of the mysterious knight. Gritting her teeth, she puts all her strength into pushing back the glowing blade that threatens to overwhelm her. The knight glares down with pure contempt, growling, "You shouldn't be looking away, trash." It seems the knight's patience has worn thin, as she's already completely fed up with how things are going. Elsewhere in the forest, a cloaked mage observes the distant battles with a smirk, noting that the plan is underway. However, his observation is cut short when he senses another figure emerging from the woods to confront him. It's our protagonist, looking calm and collected as he steps forward to face the enemy mage head-on. The air crackles with magical energy as both mages prepare for a duel, their powerful staffs glowing ominously. The older mage makes the first move, a maniacal grin spreading across his face as he unleashes a powerful fire arrow spell. But our hero doesn't even flinch, standing his ground as the fiery projectiles race toward him, ready to counter.
Instead of dodging, he meets the fiery arrow head-on, deflecting the raw magical energy with a swing of his staff. The impact is immense, sending a shockwave through the forest and knocking our hero off his feet. But even as he's sent flying, his eyes show nothing but cold, calculated focus. The enemy mage doesn't let up for a second, launching another fire arrow with deadly precision. The mage is clearly enjoying this, a twisted grin spreading across his face as he praises our hero's agility. He plants his feet, using his staff not just as a weapon, but as an impenetrable shield against the barrage of fire. The constant explosions are taking their toll, but he grits his teeth, refusing to give his opponent an inch. Suddenly, the mage changes tactics, mixing in a new attack with his fire magic. A massive, sharpened rock bursts through the flames, catching our hero completely off guard. He barely has time to react, realizing his opponent is a powerful dual-element mage. The enemy mage sneers, relishing the look of surprise on his target's face. He winds up for another powerful strike, channeling a devastating amount of fire magic into his staff. Undeterred, our hero stands his ground amidst the inferno, his own weapon beginning to glow with power. The two mages face off, the burning forest a testament to the power being unleashed in their duel. The enemy scoffs, mockingly asking how he's managed to survive this long. Our hero remains silent, his stoic expression giving nothing away. Getting impatient with the silence, the mage decides he'll just have to beat the answers out of him. He unleashes his signature fire arrow once more, certain this will be the final blow. But this time, our hero is ready, a smirk playing on his lips as he prepares his own unique spell. He calmly utters a single, powerful word: revolver. With a simple gesture, he uses telekinesis not to block, but to seize control of the enemy's spell. The mage's eyes widen in utter disbelief at what he's witnessing. His own fire arrow is now spinning like a drill, imbued with telekinetic force that's tearing right through his own defenses. It's a technique he's never seen before, a perfect and terrifying fusion of two different types of magic. The supercharged projectile slams into the ground right at the mage's feet, erupting in a colossal explosion. The arrogant mage is left stunned and scorched, completely outplayed by the hero's superior skill and ingenuity. Standing over the crater, the enraged mage mutters about so-called geniuses like our hero. With a twisted, manic grin, he reveals that geniuses are the type of people he despises the most. Done playing around, he unleashes a powerful spear-like fire attack, demanding to see the hero's true power. But our hero is ready, gathering a teal-colored energy into his fist for a counter. He summons a massive gauntlet of solid rock to meet the fiery blast head-on. The mage's raw power is immense, shattering the rock defense and sending our hero stumbling back. The mage's face contorts with glee, believing he's finally gained the upper hand in this magical duel. But it was all a feint, as the hero reveals a glowing ring he'd been concealing. The mage freezes in shock, realizing far too late that he's walked right into another one of the hero's traps. With a simple gesture, the hero activates his skill, his expression calm and completely in control. The mage's powerful fire spear is suddenly redirected, narrowly missing the hero who prepared for this exact moment. The hero braces himself against the sheer force of the spell he's now commanding. The mage can only watch in horror as his own ultimate attack now barrels directly towards him. A strange sigil on the hero's shoulder glows brightly, the source of this incredible redirection magic. He desperately spins around, trying to defend against his own full-powered attack. But the hero masterfully guides the fiery projectile, curving it through the air with perfect precision. He calls out his technique, Revolver, as he spins the massive spell like a bullet ready to be fired. The controlled blast detonates against the landscape, a show of overwhelming power and control. Emerging from the dust, the mage isn't scared. He's laughing, finally excited by a worthy opponent. He reveals his own trump card, a glowing green ring, announcing he's tired of simply trading magic shots. He unleashes a brand new attack, a massive wave of toxic energy called Poison Breath. The sudden shift in elements catches our hero by surprise as the deadly green miasma closes in. The poison cloud completely engulfs the area, seemingly consuming the hero in one devastating move. The mage confidently steps into his own poison, beginning to mock his opponent's limited elements. With a smug look, he assumes victory is his, believing the hero has succumbed to the toxic fumes. But as the smoke clears, our hero stands completely unharmed, protected by an unknown power. Unfazed, the mage pulls out a poison dagger, planning to finish the job up close and personal. He charges forward, ready to strike down the hero who he believes is weakened and helpless. With a truly deranged expression, the villain screams that he can't wait to see the hero's face filled with despair. But our hero has no intention of despairing. With a cold glint in his eyes, he leaps forward, ready to shut the villain up for good. Closing the distance in an instant, he cocks back his fist, ignoring the mage's pathetic attempt at a counterspell. The mage's eyes widen in sheer terror, realizing far too late that he's completely outmatched in close quarters. He ducks under the villain's clumsy swing and winds up a devastating punch with all his strength. A sickening crunch echoes through the forest as his fist connects, shattering the mage's jaw and sending blood flying. The hero looks on, completely unfazed by the brutal impact of his own attack. His opponent is sent flying like a rag doll, his arrogant rant cut short by a harsh reality check. The scene flashes back to a tavern, where one of the hero's companions asks in disbelief how he pulled off his previous feat. Another mercenary drunkenly chimes in, telling him to pay the tab now that their boss is gone. But his friend just laughs, saying it's not a skill you can learn on a whim. He recalls the hero's unique ability, a mysterious power he called Room. It's revealed to be a telekinetic skill that traps air, which he used to miraculously suck up a vast amount of poison and save them. The memory ends with a laugh, highlighting just how ridiculously overpowered our protagonist really is. Back in the present, the hero is in the middle of a ruthless beatdown, delivering a flurry of relentless strikes. He lands blow after vicious blow, each one cracking bone and sending shockwaves through his enemy's body. The man can do nothing but scream in agony as he's mercilessly pummeled into submission. A final devastating uppercut sends a blast of pure energy straight through his chin, silencing him for good. Returning his focus to the mage, the hero continues his ruthless assault without giving him a single moment to recover. He unleashes a multi-hit combo, riddling the villain's body with brutal impacts from all sides. The villain is blasted into a tree and desperately tries to cast one last spell, but the hero is already on him. With lightning speed, he snatches the mage's staff right out of his hand, the weapon still glowing with magical power. His hand closes around the staff, claiming the villain's source of power for his own. The staff's aura immediately shifts from blue to a blazing orange, responding to its new, far more powerful master. Pinned and powerless, the mage can only scream in utter horror as he stares down his own impending doom. The hero's eyes burn with cold fury, promising nothing but absolute annihilation. He raises the supercharged staff, ready to unleash a final fiery attack to end this fight once and for all. With his weapon supercharged with flames, our hero unleashes a scorching attack. His eyes glow with deadly intent, pouring all his power into this single decisive blow. Desperate, the evil mage tries to block the inferno with his bare hands. The searing heat instantly chars his flesh, but he's not down for the count just yet. Screaming in agony, he begins channeling a different sinister green energy from his other hand. Roaring in defiance, a massive explosion of life-draining magic erupts from his position. Simultaneously, he activates a magic ring on his burned hand, preparing a second spell. He casts Room, a spatial manipulation spell designed to trap our hero and turn the tables. But our protagonist scoffs at these cheap tricks, completely unfazed by the sudden counter. He sees his own staff lying on the ground, realizing the mage is just trying to buy time to retrieve it. Smirking, he dares him to try, preparing to end the fight the second his opponent makes a move. But in his arrogance, he missed the real threat. A massive fireball suddenly materializes right in front of him. His eyes widen in shock as he realizes his fatal miscalculation. The blast hits him head-on, engulfing him in a devastating explosion. The mage, with a look of pure hatred, reveals he was just baiting him while charging his ultimate spell. The resulting inferno carves a massive crater into the forest floor, incinerating everything in its path. Our hero lies defeated amidst the wreckage, admitting that his overconfidence cost him dearly. Standing over him, the victorious mage gathers even more fire, preparing to deliver the final killing blow. He unleashes a second, even larger fireball, leaving the protagonist with no hope of survival. But just as the battle seems over, the scene cuts to a new face watching the chaos from a distance. This hardened warrior holds a terrified man by the throat, seemingly in the middle of his own conflict. Suddenly, a brilliant golden arc of light flashes through the air with incredible speed. In an instant, the hostage is decapitated, not by his captor, but by a shocking betrayal. A blonde swordswoman appears, coldly telling the now shocked warrior not to order her around. Before he can even process what's happened, an arrow shoots through the falling head and pierces his skull, ending him instantly. Meanwhile, in another part of the forest, a massive horde of orcs is on the warpath, charging forward with bloodlust in their eyes. Caught in the chaos, two adventurers identify a high-level green hod and brace themselves for a difficult fight. This isn't just a mindless mob. The orcs are an organized army, even bringing heavy siege equipment to the battlefield. An orc shaman notices a particularly cunning, red-eyed individual in their ranks, hinting at a dark intelligence guiding the horde. We cut to a battlefield engulfed in flames, where a battered mage staggers to his feet, hoping his powerful opponent is finally dead. His body is ravaged by what looks like a curse, and he's clearly in critical condition. He stumbles and coughs up a torrent of blood, his body finally starting to give out. In his final moments, the mage finds himself regretting that he never even asked for his opponent's name. Just then, a figure emerges from the flames, calling out his name, El Palm. With a final surge of defiance, the mage decides to make sure El Palm remembers his name. El Palm, however, is one step ahead, looking down at his dying foe. He tells the mage to remember his name because it's the last one he will ever hear. The mage scoffs at this, calling El Palm's bravado a pointless bluff from a cockroach-like bastard. But El Palm reveals his trump card, a pulsating, high-grade mana stone glowing with immense power. The mage's eyes widen in disbelief as he recognizes the precious item. He calls El Palm a crazy bastard, thinking he's pinning his last hopes on absorbing the stone mid-battle. He mockingly lectures him that true power comes from countless experiences, not a cheap power-up. As a powerful aura erupts around him, El Palm calmly agrees that experience is indeed what you need. The mage is left utterly speechless, suddenly realizing something is terribly wrong. A glowing pattern forms on El Palm's arm as he absorbs the Mana Stone's energy at an impossible speed. He coolly informs his enemy that when it comes to experience, he has more than enough. Driven by rage and desperation, the mage launches his ultimate attack, screaming for El Palm to just die. But El Palm's eyes are cold and unwavering. He is completely unfazed by the incoming inferno. He gathers his newfound power into a single point, preparing his own counter skill, Fire Arrow. A brilliant projectile of pure fire coalesces in front of him, hurtling toward the mage. But it wasn't an arrow at all. A massive flame orb slams into the mage, engulfing him in a devastating explosion. As the dust settles, El Palm's hand crackles with a new icy blue energy, hinting at the true power he's just unlocked. But his opponent doesn't give him a chance to test his new power, unleashing a colossal vortex of flames to end the fight immediately. The winged demon pours every last drop of his energy into the attack, his eyes bulging from the sheer strain of this final gambit. The massive, fiery drill spirals directly towards El Palm, threatening to completely incinerate him on the spot. El Palm takes the full force of the blast head-on, the immense pressure making him spit blood as he endures the searing heat. Yet, as the smoke and flames begin to clear, a battered but resolute El Palm emerges from the inferno, having weathered the storm. He looks down to see the shocking result. His enemy now lies defeated in the center of a massive smoldering crater. Completely broken and immolated by his own reflected power, the winged demon's final attack has utterly failed. Meanwhile, in another part of the deadly forest, a different battle is reaching its desperate climax. A blonde warrior struggles to escape with her fallen companion as a horde of savage orcs closes in. She carries the unconscious Elpome, but with her own injuries, their situation is getting more dire by the second. Just moments before, Elpome was a whirlwind of destruction, his flaming axe burning with ferocious intensity. He carved through the monsters one by one, his kill count rising with every devastating swing. His companion could only watch in awe, stunned at how easily he was dismantling the orc warriors. Having reached a new level of insight, Elpome could now see their attack patterns with perfect clarity. He effortlessly redirects an orc's clumsy attack, using its own momentum to send it flying. Without missing a beat, he spins on another foe, bringing his fiery weapon down for the 18th kill. The axe connects with explosive force, engulfing the monster in a raging inferno. This sudden display of overwhelming power leaves the other orcs frozen in shock and fear. His partner's eyes widen in disbelief as she recognizes the unique energy signature of his attack. It's the work of a powerful orc shaman wielding a dangerous magic known as the Ordinal Flame. She realizes Elpome must be using a powerful, unknown item to wield such a fearsome spell. Back in the present, she flees with his unconscious body, desperately hoping he's still alive. But the chase is far from over, as a massive club nearly crushes her in a surprise attack from the side. The orcs have finally caught up and cornered her, their snarling faces leaving no room for escape. One of the brutes raises its axe high, preparing to deliver the final, brutal blow. Even exhausted, she shows incredible resolve, stopping the massive axe with her bare hands. She masterfully pivots, kicking one enemy away while her golden blade slices cleanly through another. But these monsters are a relentless handful, and fighting while carrying Elpome is taking its toll. Suddenly, her instincts scream in warning as a new, far deadlier threat appears. A massive fireball, conjured by the shaman, is hurtling directly towards them at incredible speed. The orc shaman cackles with glee, certain his spell will finally incinerate the troublesome humans. With no way to dodge, she shields Elpome's body with her own and braces for the devastating impact. The explosion throws them violently through the air, their fate hanging in the balance. As the smoke settles, the orc shaman peers through the destruction, its red eyes glowing with triumph. But as the dust begins to clear, a lone figure emerges from the inferno, completely unfazed.
It's the porter, his clothes tattered but his will unbroken, a dangerous glint in his eyes. The female knight stares in utter shock as the man she thought was a mere porter stands over her. His face twists into a mask of pure rage, his patience finally worn thin by the relentless attacks. With a furious roar, he launches himself forward, aiming straight for the orc shaman who thought the battle was won. A wall of orcs rushes to protect their leader, but our hero meets them head-on without a shred of hesitation. His halberd becomes a whirlwind of destruction, cleaving through the green-skinned monsters. He moves like a blur, his weapon a golden streak that spells death for any orc in its path. He effortlessly dodges a clumsy swing, countering with a devastating blow of his own. Terror flashes in an orc's eyes for a split second before its world goes dark. Another one bites the dust as he brings his weapon crashing down with overwhelming force. Watching the supposed porter's rampage, the knight can only whisper in disbelief at the power she's witnessing. He lands right beside the shaman, making her question if he's truly just a low-level first-circle mage. Channeling all his rage, he unleashes a powerful overhead strike, his eyes glowing with raw power. The orc shaman barely has time to register the glowing axe blade descending upon it. The impact creates another massive explosion, seemingly vaporizing the shaman and its platform. But the explosion sends them both flying, and our hero quickly grabs the knight to shield her from the blast. Surviving the attack, the enraged orc shaman lets out a furious roar from a distance. It's absolutely livid, shaking with uncontrollable rage as it gathers its remaining power. The shaman summons a massive orb of fire, channeling all its hatred into one final devastating spell. Seeing our hero is injured, the knight steps forward, sword at the ready, declaring that she'll handle the final blow. With a guttural cry, the shaman unleashes a torrent of pure magical flame to wipe them from existence. The knight braces herself, wrapping her blade in a magical aura to meet the inferno head-on. But the shaman suddenly stops, its rage turning to confusion as it senses something is wrong. In the reflection of its eye, it sees its ultimate spell being mysteriously intercepted. A brilliant beam of cyan energy effortlessly pierces the fireball, causing it to dissipate harmlessly. The knight looks up, completely stunned, realizing the help came from someone else entirely. A mysterious hand, glowing with an otherworldly blue light, appears out of nowhere, stopping the shaman's staff. A powerful new figure emerges from the chaos, casually remarking that he's arrived just in time. A flashback reveals the gaff orcs roaring in triumph, completely unaware of the doom about to befall them. One of the mercenaries curses his luck. What was supposed to be an easy payday has turned into a fight for survival. Suddenly, the sky itself turns a terrifying blood red, and panic erupts as his comrades are slaughtered. The source of the devastation is a pulsating, otherworldly core, crackling with raw, destructive energy. The warrior is thrown back by the sheer force, powerless against this unknown and terrifying entity. Back at the command post, an officer demands a situation report, but the chaos is too widespread to comprehend. The memory of that day ends, but the terror is still fresh in the survivor's mind. Back in the present, the grim reality sets in as the few survivors of the disastrous raid are brought back. One of them jolts awake, his eyes wide with the horror he's just witnessed. The red-haired man, Gaffork, who also survived, tries to calm the traumatized adventurer. He needs answers, sternly demanding that the man collect himself and report what happened. Looking around, the survivor realizes the horrifying truth. Out of a 100-man team, only 3 made it back alive. As a healer tends to his wounds, he begins to recount the events from inside the gate. With a haunted look, he reveals the cause of their slaughter. There was a demon inside. Gaffork prepares to take down his official testimony, needing every last detail for his superiors. The mention of a demon sends a chill down his spine. This is far worse than a normal gate break. This grave news quickly travels to a tense meeting between the heads of the various merchant unions. They argue over Gaffork's report, finding it hard to believe an entire 100-man team was wiped out. The Sky Merchant representative, Toriel, loudly voices his disbelief, mocking the very idea of such a loss. Gaffork presents a sketch based on the survivor's testimony of the monstrous gate boss. However, the other representatives remain skeptical, unwilling to trust the word of one traumatized man. The tension boils over as one of the members violently grabs another, shutting down the dissent. This is Franco, the representative from Goldrich, a man whose flamboyant style hides a ruthless nature. Gaffork listens silently as the powerful merchants begin to turn on each other. Franco smirks, callously accusing Gaffork of simply trolling them with his unbelievable story. The others look on as the discussion shifts from the tragedy to assigning blame for the failure. Another powerful merchant cuts straight to the point, asking if Gaffork himself betrayed them all. Franco twirls his mustache, twisting the narrative to suggest it was simply Gaffork's incompetence that led to the slaughter. Franco's outrageous lie is met with roaring laughter from the other guild leaders, who are all too happy to believe Gaffork's incompetence is to blame. Gaffork seethes in silence, his eye burning with fury as he's publicly humiliated by the blatant deception. Unable to take the insults any longer, Gaffork stands to demand proof, but Franco just smirks, confident in his position. Taking a long drag from his cigar, Gaffork counters with a simple question. Why would his guild sabotage a raid they were also a part of? Meanwhile, back in the forest, the party El Palme saved is preparing to part ways, thanking him for his help. As they leave, one of them turns back with a look of concern, worried about the fate of their former party. The tense situation seems to trigger a memory for El Palme, reminding him of a past failure where a crucial decision had to be made. Suddenly, their journey is interrupted as they come across a strange, oversized snail monster blocking their path. The female knight supports El Palme, who's still weak from the previous battle, and asks what's wrong. But it's no ordinary monster, it's a greedy snail, a harmless creature known for collecting valuable items. In a flash, El Palme recalls his old comrade's urgent voice, questioning his hesitation during a desperate moment. In his memory, their camp is engulfed in flames, and his partner suggests a grim plan: create a diversion and escape. He remembers the desperation on his own face, forced to consider abandoning everything just to survive. But as he prepared to ditch his gear, he noticed a faint glow coming from inside his bag. He questions the report, recalling that their original plan was to eliminate all parties and claim the boss monster for themselves. This means at least one of the 3 survivors must have seen the player they framed, the one known as William. Yet, the official report from the guild made no mention of him, raising the leader's suspicions about what really happened. He considers the worst-case scenario. What if this player realized he wasn't just fighting a merchant union, but the followers of that person? If so, he would be the only one alive who knows that the followers of the legendary Black Magician have returned. The subordinate panics at the terrifying implication, suggesting they immediately cut ties with their infiltrated members. But the leader finds this unexpected complication amusing, a manic grin spreading across his face as he summons a ball of fire. He decides it's time to change the stage for their grand plan, picking a more suitable location for their next act. His attention turns to a monstrous, scarred creature as he prepares to welcome his 101st guest. It seems this powerful being has a new, twisted game in mind for the player who unraveled his scheme. The story flashes back to a time of fire and desperation, a lone warrior facing down a terrifying monster. We're reminded of our protagonist's deep-seated trauma, a past where he was powerless to save his own family. This vulnerability attracted a sinister being who offered him a chance at power with a wicked smile. The colossal entity presented a deal, a tempting offer of help in his darkest hour. But even then, his eyes burned with a defiant fury, refusing to bow to such a creature. A year has passed since that fateful encounter, and now we find our hero in a new world, hunting vicious monsters with a new team. A boisterous warrior named Debo celebrates taking first place in their monster-slaying competition with a flashy attack. The rest of the party jokes around, deciding that the runner-up will be stuck with cleaning duty for the day. Their leader, a skilled warrior named Aaron, declares the job done and prepares to lead them out. She stands triumphantly atop a mountain of defeated beasts, a testament to her party's incredible strength. Our protagonist, now part of this crew, reflects on how much his life has changed in just 1 year. The lighthearted banter continues as the team playfully roasts Debo for his loss. While the others are distracted, Aaron focuses on navigating the treacherous dungeon ahead. Their path leads them to a massive hidden cavern glowing with an ominous red light deep within the mountains. This mission, we learn, started with a desperate plea from a young girl at their door. She needs a brave adventurer to help her find her brother, who went missing in the dangerous abandoned mine. The pragmatic leader, Aaron, initially rejects the request, calling it an inefficient personal matter. She coldly tells the girl that her brother is likely already dead and to ask another adventurer. But our protagonist steps in, explaining that no one has dared venture into that dangerous area lately. Driven by his conscience, he passionately vows to help the girl and ensure her safety on the perilous journey. And so, the party ventures into the depths of the ominous, arrow-strewn dungeon. They soon discover a corpse, but to the girl's relief, it's not her missing brother. Just as Aaron notes the body is over a week old, the girl suddenly recognizes the fallen adventurer. Suddenly, the ground erupts. Our hero acts fast, grabbing the girl and leaping to safety. A colossal stone guardian with glowing green eyes rises from the rebel, its gaze locking on to the intruders. Aaron screams out a warning as she identifies the ancient boss monster, a Zakum, ordering everyone to fall back immediately. A powerful blue slash cuts through the air, aimed directly at the colossal foe. But the attack barely scratches the Zakum's arm, revealing the terrifying gap in their power levels. Not giving up, Aaron yells for a coordinated attack, taking the left flank with incredible speed. Debo roars in agreement, swinging his massive axe with the intent to finish this fight now. The rest of the party surges forward, a flurry of steel and determination against the stone behemoth. They unleash a barrage of attacks from all sides, desperately trying to find a weakness in the Zakum's defenses. But a look of horror spreads across Shannon's face, realizing their combined assault is having no effect. After a grueling battle, the dust settles to reveal the Zakum statue has finally been defeated, leaving the warriors exhausted. But as Debo catches his breath, he frantically looks around, realizing someone is missing from their party. He spots a small, dirtied rabbit doll on the ground. It's Shannon's. His eyes fall upon a dark cave entrance nearby, and he curses, realizing Shannon must have gone inside alone. Aaron, the leader, senses it too, a powerful, ominous presence emanating from deep within the cave. She warns the others, confirming their fears. Whatever is in that cave is far more dangerous than the statue they just fought. Hearing this, Debo grits his teeth, his protective instincts for Shannon overriding any sense of fear. Debo is furious with himself for letting her go, but his friend tells him to calm down and listen to Aaron. But Debo's resolve is unshakable. Looking at Aaron as she prepares to go in, he states, "I'm coming with you." Aaron accepts his help, stating that as a hero, it's her duty to confront any threat to the Maple World. Together, the two warriors step into the ominous cavern, ready to face the unknown danger. They find themselves in a vast grotto with a raging river of lava flowing beneath them. In the heart of the cavern, they find Shannon sitting at the base of a colossal, chained tree. Debo spots her immediately, and they rush across the bridge towards her and the unconscious figure beside her.
As they get closer, they see she's cradling an injured man, his face bruised and bloody. Shannon tearfully reveals the man is her long-lost brother, whom she'd been searching for all this time. Debo can only clench his fists in anger and sorrow, realizing the tragic situation he's just stumbled upon. But then, Shannon's expression shifts into a chilling, tear-filled smile that sends a shiver down their spines. She tells Debo she knew his kindness would lead him here, but chillingly adds that there's no turning back now. Shannon then reveals the horrifying truth. The statue they fought was a mere puppet, and this giant tree is the real Zakum. Debo stares in disbelief, shouting her name, unable to comprehend they haven't even faced the true enemy yet. Aran, ever the hero, steps forward to protect Debo, assuring Shannon that she will slay this demon tree herself. She warns Shannon to get clear of the tree, unless she has some other twisted reason to stay by its side. The elf's eyes narrow as she reveals a horrifying truth about their enemy's power. She explains that the trap had been sprung long ago, using insidious mediums to control them. The ritual had already started the moment they stepped inside this place, triggered by mysterious red orbs. These orbs are mediums for the dark magician Zakum's influence, and his control isn't just limited to statues, as Miria suddenly stabs her own teammate through the chest. The shocking betrayal leaves even the stoic elf completely stunned and caught off guard. She immediately retaliates, launching a powerful blast of dark energy straight at the possessed Miria. The two immense powers collide in a devastating explosion that rips through the chamber. Bleeding out, the man can only look back in confusion and ask his friend why she attacked him. His eyes widen in sheer horror as he finally starts to comprehend the treachery. But Miria's eyes glow with demonic power as she snarls, accusing him of being the one who killed her friends. With a sadistic grin, she dismisses his confusion, seeing him as nothing but a target for her twisted revenge. Gathering a massive ball of destructive energy in her hand, she declares that it's time for the finale. She calls this horrific act a performance, ready to deliver the final explosive blow. Fully consumed by darkness, she dedicates her actions to her true master, the Lord Black Magician.
As the possessed Miria attacks relentlessly, Debo struggles to his feet, realizing the horrifying truth: she's been possessed by Zakum. His teammates scream at him to snap out of it. Aren yells at Debo to finish it quickly, reminding him that the woman in front of them is no longer Miria. The dark-haired warrior knows they're right, but the thought of fighting his friend is tearing him apart as the possessed Miria looms. Seeing her comrades hesitate, Aren takes matters into her own hands, activating adrenaline boost and charging forward with her massive axe. She unleashes a powerful smash swing, the force of her attack shattering parts of Zakum's monstrous form. Watching from the sidelines, Debo can only grit his teeth in anguish, paralyzed by his connection to Miria. But despite the ferocity of her strike, it isn't enough to stop the monster. Aren curses as she realizes her attack barely made a dent. She's sent flying, her confidence shattered as she's overwhelmed with regret for leading them into this deadly trap. Seeing Aren in danger finally breaks Debo from his stupor. With a furious roar, he charges into the fray. Meanwhile, the other party member is overwhelmed with guilt, blaming himself for their predicament as he takes a heavy blow. As Miria's attack comes down, the swordsman can only apologize to the friend he couldn't save. But just in the nick of time, Debo intercepts the deadly strike, his bare hand stopping her shark claws inches from his comrade's face. He stands firm as a shield, putting his own body on the line to protect his friend from the possessed Miria. Stunned but safe, his friend whispers a grateful thank you for the last-second save. Seeing Debo has finally joined the fight, Aren gets back on her feet, ready to launch a counterattack. She leaps towards the grotesque, many-eyed main body of Zakum, realizing that this must be the real target. But Zakum is no easy foe, and a massive stone hand erupts from its body to block her devastating attack. The colossal hand closes in, catching Aren mid-air and threatening to crush her instantly. But in a shocking twist, Miria seems to regain some control, yelling for Aren to help her tear Zakum apart from the inside.
Fueled by this unexpected alliance, Aren unleashes a furious battle cry as the two warriors attack the monster in unison. Their combined power is immense as brilliant beams of energy slice through Zakum's rocky defenses.
Miria lands gracefully, her attack leaving a massive gash in the creature's body. While the women handle the main body, Debo struggles to break free, finding himself pinned down by a massive chunk of the monster. Suddenly, Aren's demeanor shifts as a dark power consumes her. With a crazed grin, she declares that Debo is unworthy of being a vessel for her master. It was all a trap. The darkness has found its true host as the fully corrupted Aren now looms over her helpless party member. Before the corruption took hold, their mission was simple: destroy the final statue. But the warrior realizes far too late that the true horror of this dungeon was never the statue. Racked with agony, Aren collapses as the dark energy violently overtakes his body. His party member can only watch in horror, unable to believe what is happening to her friend. Using the last of his willpower, Aren screams at her to kill him before he's lost forever. She makes the heart-wrenching decision, gripping her glowing weapon to grant his final wish. A pained, accepting smile creeps across Aren's face as he prepares for the end. He sees this as a fitting punishment for his own foolish thoughts, a tragic end he brought upon himself. "Hurry," he begs one last time, his voice filled with desperation and pain. And just like that, the light in his eyes is extinguished, replaced by a burning red flame of pure malice. As his consciousness shatters, Aren's mind is flooded with a mysterious, haunting vision. He sees an apparition of his sister, lying helpless on the cold stone floor. This final taunt pushes him over the edge, twisting his grief into uncontrollable demonic rage. His former ally steals her gaze, promising to end his suffering as quickly as possible. But the being staring back at her is no longer Aren, only a monster wearing his face, grinning with bloodlust. As the chamber crumbles around them, the warrior braces for the inevitable clash against her fallen friend. The possessed Aren lunges forward with terrifying speed and power, swinging his massive halberd. The two former comrades become a blur, their weapons clashing with enough force to shake the room. She's pushed back by his relentless assault, barely managing to dodge the furious strikes. She twists and spins away from another deadly blow, desperately trying to find an opening in his offense. With a grunt, she parries a strike, shocked that even possessed, his combat instincts are sharper than ever. It's time to stop holding back. The warrior unleashes her own power, her spear glowing with a brilliant blue aura. She leaps into the air and channels all her energy into one massive spinning slash. Her powerful attack cleaves right through a huge chunk of the crumbling statue, proving its devastating force. The wave of pure energy slams into Aren, sending a visible shockwave through his corrupted form. He staggers back from the impact, the dark aura around him flickering for just a moment. Without letting up, she immediately casts her next skill, Final Toss, imbuing her weapon with icy power. The blow sends Aren flying backward and disarms him, his halberd clattering uselessly to the ground. Seizing the opportunity, she hurls her spear through the air like a frozen comet. But her target isn't her friend, it's the towering statue, the true source of all this madness. With all her remaining strength, Aren swings her polearm, roaring that it's time to put an end to this. She unleashes her ultimate skill, Final Blow, summoning the spectral spirit of a massive wolf to obliterate her target. Debo looks on in horror, finally realizing she was never aiming for him in the first place. Blinded by the curse, he lunges forward, trying to protect the very statue that's controlling him. Aren steals her resolve, knowing this is her only chance to free him, even if it means cutting him down in the process. The massive attack connects, shattering the stone effigy and breaking the chains of its dark influence. The feedback jolts Debo back to his senses, and he struggles to his knees, completely disoriented. A familiar voice cuts through the haze as a battered Aren smiles, relieved that he's finally come to. Standing over the rubble of her ancient enemy, she admits she was worried she'd have to leave without saying a proper goodbye. Debo's eyes widen in disbelief and recognition. It's really her, his master, Aren. He reaches out in confusion, asking why she saved him when he begged her to end his life. Aren explains that her time has passed. She is no longer the one to defeat the Black Magician, but he has the talent to do it. Overwhelmed with emotion, Debo cries out that he could never become as strong as she is. With a gentle smile, Aren places her trust in him, leaving the fate of the Maple World in his hands. As her spiritual form begins to fade away into the light, she assures him that he'll do great.
In her final moments, she reveals her unwavering faith in him comes from one simple fact: he is her one and only disciple. With his master gone, Debo is left alone with her final words, the memory of that day forever burned into his mind. He recalls the hell that followed, the crushing weight of failing to protect the goal she had given him. It was a time of pure despair, with no way to repent for the sins he felt he had committed. The memory of facing the Black Magician and his overwhelming power still haunts his dreams. He relives his ultimate defeat, watching helplessly as a cataclysmic fireball descends upon him. His eyes snap open, pulling him from the nightmare of the past and back into the present. Debo sits up in bed, the phantom pains of his dream fading as he realizes where he is. A young woman enters the room, surprised to see him awake and even more shocked that his severe wounds have completely vanished. Startled by his sudden movement, she drops the clothes she was carrying, unsure who this mysterious man is. Ignoring her, Debo gets dressed and heads for the door, his mind already focused on what comes next. Leaning against the wall outside is a young man with green hair who tells him to hurry up and get ready. But his first order of business isn't a new quest, it's asking Debo to lend him 200,000 meso. Debo confirms Jihan's story, impressed that he managed to survive raising his circle. Thinking Jihan is broke, Debo smugly offers him some pocket change for the information he provided. But Jihan cuts him off, stating he's not here for a handout but to pay off his debts. He then slams a massive stack of cash on the table, leaving the guildmaster completely stunned. Debo can't believe his eyes, breaking into a cold sweat at the sight of all that money. Completely flustered, he awkwardly congratulates Jihan on becoming a free adventurer, his composure totally gone. With a confident smirk, Jihan reveals the jaw-dropping amount: 50 million mesos. Debo screams that the amount is absurd, unable to comprehend how a novice could earn so much. With his debt repaid, Jihan declares their business is over and turns to leave, ignoring Debo's desperate plea. Just then, Gion, Debo's subordinate, steps in, wanting to know about the sign-on bonus Jihan mentioned. He follows Jihan out, demanding to know how much money he asked for to get such a high rank. Jihan cryptically dismisses him, simply saying he wouldn't understand. Confused, Gion presses for an answer, but Jihan is already leading him somewhere familiar. Their destination is the notorious slum ground, a place Jihan knows all too well. Jihan reminisces about his harsh past, having tried everything just to escape this wretched place. This area, once a vibrant part of the city, is now just a shadow of its former self, filled with despair. As they walk through the desolate streets, Jihan mentions their next stop is Victoria Island. Suddenly, their path is blocked as a man is sent flying through a brick wall by an unseen force. The man crashes hard onto the stone pavement, and Gion is caught completely off guard by the ambush. Without a moment's hesitation, Jihan leaps into the fray, a dagger appearing as he descends on their attackers. He moves like a blur, instantly neutralizing one of the thugs with precise and brutal efficiency. The ambusher can only grit his teeth in pain, completely overpowered by Jihan's swift assault. Jihan watches in shock, breathing heavily as he recognizes the familiar violence of his old neighborhood. The downed thug desperately screams for his big brothers to help him out. In an instant, they're surrounded by a group of much larger and more intimidating brutes. Even Jihan turns pale with fear, realizing they've walked right into a deadly trap. But Jihan simply steps forward, unfazed, as the thugs question his sanity for challenging them. The lead thug, furious, pulls out a knife, accusing Jihan of stealing from him and demanding he pay up immediately. His lackeys laugh maniacally, clearly enjoying the show, and assuming Jihan is just another easy mark. But their leader isn't laughing, his patience wears thin as he screams for his money. In response, Jihan wordlessly throws a massive stack of cash right in the thug's face, leaving him completely stunned. He coldly tells the thug he'd just paid him off, ordering him to get lost while the goon stammers in disbelief. Ignoring the thugs, Jihan turns his attention to a scruffy-looking man in the crowd, telling him to follow. Now in a secluded alley, the man, named El Pawom, asks what happened to the money Jihan just casually threw away. Jihan reveals he has no more, prompting a smug smirk from El Pawom, who realizes Jihan is here to recruit him. Knowing his own worth, El Pawom declares that if Jihan wants his skills, he'll have to pay a hefty price. But just as El Pawom tries to leverage his position, a new group emerges from the shadows, interrupting their negotiation. A short-dressed woman leads the newcomers, her confident smirk suggesting she holds all the cards. She addresses El Pawom directly, confirming that her group has come specifically for him. She introduces herself as being from the Kanya Merchant Union, praising Elpoam's party for raiding the 100-man gate. Impressed by their feat, she formally extends an offer to scout their entire party for the union. But Jihan cuts in, casually presenting an even bigger stack of cash to a wide-eyed Elpoam. With his eyes turning to literal gold coins, Elpoam greedily snatches the money, his loyalty instantly bought. As Jihan calmly walks away with his new recruit, the young axe warrior can't believe he just spent 10 million on this guy. But Jihan isn't done yet, mentioning they have another appointment, leaving the warrior utterly bewildered. Their next stop is a tavern, where they meet a stern-looking blonde knight waiting for them. Jihan and his newly formed party approach her table, ready for the next stage of his grand plan. Soon after, the fully assembled party stands before a gate in the pouring rain, ready for a raid. Looking at their small team, a new member questions if they truly have enough people to conquer the gate ahead.
As the party hesitates, a woman introduces herself as Beiju from the Kanya Merchant Union, here to lead the raid. She explains the gate's unique conditions, pointing out that it requires a large party of 50 people to even enter. Our hero, Jae-hyun, thinks to himself, finding it curious that the Merchant Union specifically sought him out for this raid. A cold resolve fills his eyes. He recognizes this gate from his past life and knows exactly what's coming. As they proceed, some of the newer members become confused, overhearing talk about a mysterious second gate. The blonde knight explains that this is an orange gate, a two-stage dungeon where they must conquer a second one to find the exit. But before she can finish, one of the brutish mercenaries erupts, challenging the current command structure. He argues that just because the merchant union hired them, it doesn't automatically give them the right to lead. With a greedy smirk, he proposes that the party leader should be the strongest person in the raid, clearly nominating himself. Seeing his chance, Jae-hyun steps in with a sly grin, suggesting they decide the leader based on their contribution to the raid. The mercenary's eyes widen in shock, completely caught off guard by the clever counterproposal. But his surprise quickly morphs into a crazed, confident smile as he accepts the challenge, certain of his victory. The rest of the team looks on anxiously as the lines are drawn and a power struggle begins before the first monster is even slain.
As the party arrives at the dungeon entrance, our hero is already thinking about the reward money. Little does he know, the monsters are the least of their worries. Before they can even begin, the team's hot-headed brute confronts him, furious about his nonchalant attitude. The argument turns violent as a punch is thrown, but the strange, dark blood that splatters on our hero's face hints at a sinister plot. Suddenly, all hell breaks loose as monsters swarm the disorganized party. With their formation broken, panicked screams fill the air. The team's frontline tank is instantly crushed under a monster's massive foot, proving their infighting has led them to ruin. Our hero finds himself caught in a beast's massive jaws, using every ounce of strength just to stay alive. These grotesque creatures, known as Evil Eyes, swarm from the shadows, screeching as they lash out with razor-sharp claws. But the true danger is the traitor in their midst, who uses the chaos to attack his own teammates. The monsters press their advantage, their spined tails whipping through the air to crush anyone left standing. The blonde swordsman has finally seen enough, putting her blade to the traitor's neck to demand he stop. Sensing the party's complete disarray, the horde of Evil Eyes closes in for an easy kill. The mages in the backline desperately try to hold their ground, unleashing waves of fire and ice magic to create some distance. Seeing an opening, the blonde warrior leaps forward, unleashing her ultimate skill, Rising Sun. But to her shock, the agile beast dodges the massive blast of light. Her eyes burn with fierce determination as she refuses to let her target escape. Without missing a beat, she pivots and follows up with a powerful cleaving strike that connects perfectly. Her victory is short-lived, however, as she looks up to find herself completely surrounded by the rest of the pack. She's quickly overwhelmed by their numbers, and a shadowy demonic claw reaches out to claim her life. Elsewhere on the battlefield, another party member is brutally slammed by a monster's attack.
Just as the beast goes for the killing blow, our hero dives in, blocking the attack with his glowing greatsword. He pushes back with a powerful spinning slash, sending the monster reeling. The force of the blow is too much for the creature, which erupts in a shower of purple gore. Drenched in its blood, our hero grits his teeth, his mind focused only on surviving this disastrous mission. That's when the true villain finally reveals himself, his arm coursing with a sinister purple energy as he admits this chaos was his plan all along. The blonde swordsman can only stare in horror, realizing the real enemy was fighting beside them the entire time.
An evil eye screeches and charges forward, becoming the perfect test subject for the traitor's newfound power. He effortlessly cleaves the monster in two, reveling in the dark energy that now swirls around him like a cloak of death. As the dark energy settles, he faces another one-eyed beast, unimpressed by its wild attacks. Without wasting a moment, he drives his fist directly into the creature's massive eye, splattering purple blood everywhere. Meanwhile, watching from the shadows, the gruff hunter marvels at our hero's speed, admitting this newcomer's hunting pace is far superior to his own. With renewed determination, the hunter turns his attention to his own target, refusing to be shown up. He brings his weapon down with crushing force, smashing the monster's skull in a single brutal blow. A grin spreads across his face as he feels the surge of dark energy, convinced this borrowed power is definitely worth the price. He thinks about the 50,000 mesos contract fee, a prize that validates his strength and ruthlessness. His eyes gleam with pure avarice, the reflection of a gold coin replacing his very pupil. He's lost in a daydream of wealth, imagining himself sitting atop a mountain of gold after he takes over this party. But his daydream is cut short by his exasperated party member, Kinya, who mutters about how much the monstrous bastard is enjoying himself. The hunter's bloodlust is fully ignited, a maniacal grin plastered on his face as he screams in exhilaration, lost in the thrill of the fight. But his recklessness costs him as a powerful blow sends him flying, just as our real hero appears on the scene, shocked by the chaos. Suddenly, an enemy player drops from the sky with a condescending smirk, and our hero calmly assesses this new, unexpected threat. Just as the hunter is about to be overwhelmed, a blinding shower of blue energy arrows descends from above, annihilating the monsters in an instant. Our hero whirls around, trying to pinpoint the source of the powerful attack and wondering which bastard just interfered. Before he can get an answer, the ground begins to tremble as a massive horde of monsters stampedes directly towards them. From the treetops, a glowing blue arrowhead is knocked, humming with intense magical energy. A mysterious archer shrouded in darkness with glowing red eyes draws their bow, preparing to unleash another devastating volley. Our hero's sharp senses immediately detect the archer's location, his gaze snapping towards the trees. He has no time to investigate, however, as monsters are already upon him, forcing him to brace for the onslaught. The mysterious archer lets loose their attack, and a brilliant arrow of pure energy streaks through the air like a comet. It tears through the monster ranks with unstoppable force, vaporizing everything in its path. Seeing an opening, our hero instantly switches tactics, his staff igniting with powerful flame magic, shocking the enemy player with his incredible casting speed. The enemy player narrows his glowing eyes, realizing our hero is a far greater threat than he initially assumed. With a mighty swing of his staff, the MC unleashes a devastating wave of fire magic. The enemy can only watch in stunned silence, completely unprepared for the sheer scale of the attack. The spell culminates in a colossal explosion, incinerating the entire monster horde and shaking the very forest. Even the boisterous hunter is left speechless, his mind struggling to comprehend the incredible power he just witnessed. Snapping out of his stupor, the hunter roars with rage and lunges forward, his weapon crackling with dark energy. But our protagonist remains completely unfazed, his eyes tracking the incoming attack with cold, calculating precision. Before the hunter can even react, a voice echoes, "Behind you!" as a storm of magical arrows descends upon his leader. The attack lands in a devastating explosion, and the hunter can only scream in horror for his fallen boss. But the assault isn't over. In the same instant, our protagonist appears behind the remaining party members, ready for another strike. Realizing the terrifying gap in their power, the blonde warrior screams for an immediate retreat. Her words barely register with the horrified hunter, who now understands they've picked a fight they can't possibly win. However, retreat is a luxury they don't have, as another volley of deadly light rains down to finish the job. As the light descends, the party scatters in panic, but the relentless assault offers no escape. Screams of agony fill the air as the beams pierce through flesh and bone, cutting down the mercenaries where they stand. But amidst the chaos, the paladin holds her ground, channeling immense power into her blade. She unleashes a brilliant solar slash, a wave of golden energy that meets the deadly blue torrent head-on. The sheer force of the collision sends a shockwave through the forest as she struggles to maintain the attack. Meanwhile, other party members find themselves trapped, unable to flee as ominous red circles block their path. Suddenly, a terrifying creature of pure flame erupts from the ground, intent on devouring them whole. However, an unseen ally clears a path for them, leaving only the smoldering remains of the monsters. Seeing his chance, Evoke announces he's moving on ahead, seemingly abandoning his team. The remaining party members can only watch in disbelief as their supposed leader deserts them. He moves forward without a second thought, his foot crushing a discarded weapon on his way out. But the danger is far from over, as another volley of light arrows rains down upon the struggling survivors. Debo screams out to his boss in desperation, realizing that at this rate, they're all doomed. But it seems Evoke's retreat was just a feint, as he pivots and unleashes a powerful stream of fire towards the trees. He yells out a command to Debo just as his attack connects, causing a massive explosion in the forest canopy. It's revealed this was all part of the plan, as the party's assassin knew the enemy was hiding and waiting for this moment. At the same time, the party's mage makes his move, using powerful magic to reposition with blinding speed. He expertly weaves through a hailstorm of projectiles, demonstrating incredible agility for a magic user. Sticking a perfect landing on a high branch, he prepares to launch his own counterattack. The hidden archer is stunned by the mage's speed, caught completely off guard by their coordinated strategy. Frantically scanning the battlefield, the archer realizes his true target, the polearm user, is nowhere to be seen. Suddenly, an explosive arrow screams through the air, aimed directly at the now exposed attacker. It's Evoke, who had secretly circled around to the perfect vantage point to take the shot. He watches calmly as his arrow finds its mark, confident that this time his target won't escape. High above, Debo zips through the trees, having successfully drawn the enemy's attention just as planned. He smirks, crediting their flawless strategy to someone he calls the Professor. But his celebration is cut short as a searing blue light tears through his body from an unseen attacker. The brutal strike pierces cleanly through his torso, a flash of blue energy followed by a spray of crimson. He's sent flying, blood erupting from the wound as his former party member watches in shock from the sidelines. His eyes widen in disbelief, the pain and the betrayal hitting him all at once. But there's no time to recover as another deadly projectile of light screams towards him. Suddenly, the entire battlefield is engulfed in a storm of these energy blasts, tearing through the other party members. One by one they fall, their cries for help lost in the chaos of the relentless assault. The blonde knight grabs a comrade, screaming at everyone to run for their lives. But the attacks are too precise, and a beam pierces her companion's leg, crippling him instantly. She struggles to drag him to safety, stumbling under the weight of her injured friend. Gritting her teeth, she pushes forward, determined to escape this deadly ambush. The blue beams continue to rain down from the sky, relentlessly hunting the survivors. The three remaining members look back in terror, realizing their pursuer isn't letting up. From the trees, a shadowy figure moves with inhuman speed, closing the distance in a blur. The attacker is revealed to be a masked assassin, channeling the destructive blue energy from his fingertips. A close-up reveals his cold, reptilian eye, devoid of any mercy or emotion. The survivors flee desperately through the forest, barely staying ahead of their pursuer. They scramble through the undergrowth, panic etched on their faces as the chase continues. Looking over their shoulders, they can feel the hunter's presence getting closer and closer. Just as their hope fades, they spot an orange portal ahead, the second gate, an escape route. A twisted, selfish grin spreads across their leader's face as a new plan forms in his mind. He plans to abandon his own boss and use the gate to save himself, much to his subordinates' horror. But his escape is cut short as the blue energy projectiles finally catch up to him. Meanwhile, back at the clearing, our hero staggers to his feet, still alive despite the grievous wound. The party leader somehow gets in front of his group, bracing for the deadly attack. He stands defiant, facing the incoming barrage of lethal energy blasts head-on. But as the attacks are about to hit, a massive cyan energy shield erupts, blocking the volley completely. He stares in shock at the object that just saved his life, his eyes wide with confusion. It was our hero who intervened, throwing his own mighty axe to protect the very people who left him for dead. The party leader smirks, confident that he's manipulated our hero into saving them once again. But the look of pure disgust on our hero's face says it all. He's not here to be their savior. With a sudden, powerful blow, he sends his former comrades flying, revealing a strength they never knew he possessed. His true target wasn't them, however, but their only means of escape, the return portal. The portal shatters into pieces, trapping them all inside the dungeon with him. There's no running away this time. Watching from the shadows, the mysterious figure who created the portal can only stare in shock as her plan crumbles.